Chapter 3143. Little Peach, I haven't seen you for a long time. Did you miss me? Kong Ming Ming made a handsome gesture and walked toward Little Peach. Little Peach's eyes flashed with doubt, but she still said, Elder Kong, you are already engaged to someone else. Please behave yourself. Don't tease. Little Peach. Haha, Little Peach, there are no outsiders here. When Kong Ming Ming said this, his expression changed. He sighed and said, Little Peach, you also know that there is a 5-element sect above the Heavenly Elixir sect, right? You are also the closest person to the young master of the Heavenly Silkworm sect. You also know the situation inside. Your big brother Kong had no choice. What do you mean? Although Little Peach had already given up on Kong Ming Ming, she still felt some sympathy when she heard what Kong Ming Ming said at this moment. She was curious to know what was going on, so she said, Big brother Kong, why are you saying this? Little Peach, I said this to tell you that Ancestor Xuanchen's daughter, Little 11, likes me and wants me to marry her. You also know how powerful Ancestor Xuanchen is. Even the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect doesn't dare to disobey his orders. I am just a small elder. Do I dare to disobey him? Kong Ming Ming said with a bitter face, I had no choice. I could only say those heartless words to you before, but that was not my intention. Is that so? Little Peach was a simple person with no ulterior motives. Although she had given up on Kong Ming Ming and even hated his guts, she was a little confused when she heard Kong Ming Ming's explanation at this moment. Was Kong Ming Ming really forced? As for what Kong Ming Ming said, Little Peach was also very clear. Ancestor Xuanchen was an overbearing old man who kept his word in the Heavenly Elixir sect. Therefore, if this was the case, then Kong Ming Ming would definitely not dare to disobey Ancestor Xuanchen's words. However, was this true? Of course. Kong Ming Ming nodded. I had no choice. Little Peach. You also know that there's a saying in Jianghu that you can't help yourself. This is the truth. If I don't want to die and I don't want to harm you, I can only agree to this marriage. I understand. Little Peach nodded and said, Big brother Kong, Little Peach doesn't blame you. I can only blame Little Peach for not having this life. I wish you and Sister 11 happiness. Little Peach, don't say that. Seeing that Little Peach misunderstood him, Kong Ming Ming hurriedly said, Actually, I don't want to say that. In private, we can still be the same as before. As long as we don't get caught by Patriarch Xuanchen, it's fine. Big brother Kong, that won't do. Little Peach can't harm you. If that's the case, you'll definitely be in trouble if someone finds out. Little Peach hurriedly shook her head. Little Peach, since I said that, I'm confident. This is just a worst-case scenario. But now there's one thing. We can be together openly. Although you can't be my first wife, you can still be my second wife. Kong Ming Ming said, If you do this well, then my master, Ancestor Xuanchen, will marry you. He will definitely agree and personally act as your matchmaker. Oh, really? Little Peach grew up in an ancient sect, so there was naturally no concept of monogamy in her mind. Therefore, in her opinion, as long as she could be with Kong Ming Ming, it didn't matter if she was his wife or concubine. Of course, Kong Ming Ming nodded and said, But this matter is very difficult, and it may let men take advantage of you. Although I like you and I don't care about these things, I'm afraid that you will care about it. Ah, Little Peach suddenly froze. Let men take advantage of me? To be honest, Little Peach was unwilling. She was a very conservative person. Although she hadn't finished the last step with Kong Ming Ming, her heart was already with Kong Ming. If she had any skin contact with other men, how could she be willing? However, Kong Ming Ming said that he didn't mind. The most important thing was that after this matter, she could be with Kong Ming Ming. Thinking of this, Little Peach was a little excited and hesitant. She couldn't make a choice for a while. Little Peach, think about it. As long as you are willing, you can be with me for the rest of your life. Kong Ming Ming said temptingly. Okay, I'll do it. Little Peach gritted her teeth and nodded. Great, Little Peach, so we can be together for the rest of our lives in the future. Kong Ming Ming said, then you go back and prepare. I will take you out. As for the reason for your departure, don't tell young Master Tian. I will ask my master, Ancestor Xianqin, to help you apply for leave. Okay. Little Peach nodded. Although she liked Kong Ming Ming and believed Kong Ming Ming's words this time, Little Peach didn't blindly obey and trust Kong Ming Ming without thinking. This time, Kong Ming Ming said not to tell Tian Chan, but Little Peach decided to tell Tian Chan after going back, because she didn't want to hide it from Tian Chan. Even if she liked Kong Ming Ming, Tian Chan was still her master. This would not change. Kong Xiaoming, on the other hand, didn't know that Little Peach had other thoughts. When he saw Little Peach nod, he thought that Little Peach was fooled by him again. He happily went to prepare and make a plan. As for Little Peach, she immediately went to report to Tian Chan. In Tian Chan's room, she was refining the elixir needed for the Heaven Step Island plan with Ancestor Xianjin. After refining another elixir, Ancestor Xianjin put away the elixir, then wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, if only I could make a few third-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons. That first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron is obviously much more advanced than mine. That first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron can refine elixir as long as one knows how to refine elixir, but this one can't. It needs some skills. Master, who is that person? Since she is so powerful, why don't you accept her as a disciple? Tian Chan was a little confused. Since this person was also talented in alchemy, wouldn't it be more convenient to take her as a disciple in the future? She has a master. Ancestor Xianjin smiled bitterly and said, moreover, her master is the kind of person I can't afford to provoke. She has a master? Who is her master? Tian Chan was slightly stunned. This was the first time that Ancestor Xianjin told her about the past. In the past, Ancestor Xianjin wouldn't mention these things. Chapter 3144. Oh, could it be that her master is one of the Vajra dual fiends? Tian Chan was shocked. That's not it, but it's their friend. Patriarch Xianjin shook his head. His surname is Sun, and he's also a very powerful person. He can combine cultivation with science. I heard that he's been working on something that can store the heaven and earth's spiritual qi and carry it with him at any time. As for whether he succeeded or not, I'm not sure. I've only met them once, and I haven't seen them since. I see. Then the two of them are really powerful. However, the killer Vajra duo knew that you were from the Five Elements sect. Didn't they come to the Five Elements sect to cause trouble? Tian Chan asked in confusion. At that time the killer Vajra duo had already disappeared, and I got to know them under the guise of a wandering cultivator. Patriarch Xianjin suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Tian Chan, do you think I'm too timid? Of course not. A wise man submits to circumstances. At that time, no one was a match for the killer Vajra duo, so I did this to protect the Five Elements sect. Tian Chan shook her head. Okay, let's not talk about this. That little girl must have grown up now, but she should be a little younger than you. I don't know if I'll have the chance to meet her in the future. However, I really want to know, did Linny think of this medicine cauldron himself, or did someone help him? Patriarch Xianjin sighed. It wasn't that he didn't want to ask Boss Bai, but he couldn't. This was because Patriarch Xianqin wanted to crack the imitation of this first-grade automatic medicine cauldron. If Patriarch Xianjin asked, Boss Bai might misunderstand that he was here to ask for information. Therefore, Patriarch Xianjin could only shut up. As for informing Boss Bai that Patriarch Xianqin wanted to imitate the medicine cauldron, it was meaningless. Even if he informed Patriarch Xianqin, he would still do it. Moreover, Xianqin was doing this for the sake of the Five Elements sect. So Patriarch Xianjin couldn't make this call. As the two were talking, they suddenly closed their mouths at the same time. Someone was coming. It's Little Peach, Tian-chan said when she heard Little Peach's footsteps. Sure enough, the sound of knocking and Little Peach's voice came from outside the room. Young sect master, are you free? I have something to discuss with you. Come in, Little Peach, Tian-chan said directly because Patriarch Xianzhen was not an outsider. Therefore, she did not avoid it. The moment Little Peach entered, she saw that Tian-chan and Ancestor Xianzhen seemed to be concocting pills, so she hurriedly asked, Young sect master, am I disturbing you? It's fine, I won't disturb you. Tian-chan waved her hand and said, Little Peach, if you have something to say, just say it. This. Little Peach glanced at Patriarch Xianzhen. She didn't want to hide it from him, but what she wanted to say was too embarrassing. He couldn't say it in front of Xianzhen Ancestor. I'm going out to get some fresh air. Patriarch Xianzhen stood up and walked out of the room with a smile. He wasn't going to get some fresh air, but to guard the door for Tian-chan. It seemed that Little Peach was going to say something important. After Patriarch Xianzhen left, Little Peach let out a sigh of relief. Although she knew that with Patriarch Xianzhen's strength, he could easily eavesdrop even if he was outside. It was fine as long as it wasn't in front of him. Young sect master. Today, Brother Kong looked for me. Little Peach said with a slightly red face. When Tian-chan heard Kong Ming-ming's name, she immediately frowned and asked vigilantly, Kong Ming-ming, why did he look for you? He said that he actually still likes me. Little Peach told Tian-chan everything that Kong Ming-ming had said to her. She didn't hide it, but she didn't want to lie to Tian-chan. In Little Peach's mind, Tian-chan was very knowledgeable and could help her make decisions on these matters. Nonsense. Tian-chan heard Little Peach's retelling and rebuked her mercilessly. Little Peach, he lied to you. After he broke up with you, Patriarch Xianzhen suggested marrying your daughter to him. It wasn't before this. You have to be clear about the timing. Don't be deceived by his flowery words. At this moment, Little Peach's mind suddenly went blank. Although it was hard for her to accept this fact, she also knew that Tian-chan wouldn't lie to her. Although Tian-chan's personality was very cold, she definitely wouldn't lie about this kind of thing. However, why would Kong Ming-ming lie to her? What was the reason? Little Peach wanted to run and argue with Kong Ming-ming now and ask him why he lied to her. Looking at Little Peach's appearance, how could Tian-chan not guess what she was thinking? So she said lightly, Little Peach, Kong Ming-ming is an unreliable person. For his own interests, he can do anything. He can betray you today, and he can betray his master the day after tomorrow. Don't take it to heart. As for arguing with him, there's no need to go. Then, should I refuse him? Little Peach hesitated and said, Don't refuse him. You agree to him, and then we'll see what his purpose is. Tian-chan had some doubts about Kong Ming-ming, suddenly looking for Little Peach to talk about these things. She wanted to see what kind of trick he was playing, so she wanted Little Peach to beat him at his own game. Okay, young master, then I agree to him. Let's see what his purpose is. Little Peach nodded. Take this elixir and then follow me. Tian-chan suddenly took out a small porcelain bottle from her arms, poured out an elixir, and handed it to Little Peach. This is concealment elixir? Little Peach was slightly stunned. Although she was not an alchemist, as Tian-chan's maid, she usually heard and saw the name and use of some elixirs. The function of this concealment elixir was to make a person's breath become hidden. If she didn't make any movements, even a heaven stage master would be hard to find. However, this thing could be used to inquire about information, but it couldn't be used to assassinate people. After all, as long as a little bit of mental cultivation method was used, the effect of this elixir would be lost, unless ordinary people took it or the cultivator didn't use mental cultivation method. But this was used to inquire about information. At other times, it was not very useful. And this elixir was a third-grade elixir. It was very difficult to refine, so few alchemists would refine these things. The elixir in Tian Chan's hand was a few elixir that Tian Chan refined when she was practicing third-grade elixir. She didn't expect that it would come in handy at this moment. Chapter 3145. Tian Chan's strength was at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage. Although Patriarch Xianqin was at the great perfection of the late stage of Heaven Stage, if Tian Chan wanted to hide her movements, Patriarch Xianqin would definitely not be able to detect it. As long as Tian Chan did not circulate the mantra and Patriarch Xianqin did not take the initiative to look for her, there was almost no problem. Visit, download, text, / Little Peach had also taken the concealment pill, so it was naturally impossible for Patriarch Xianqin to discover her. The two of them quietly came to Patriarch Xuanqin's window, and at this time, Kong Mingming just happened to enter Patriarch Xuanqin's room. "You're back." Patriarch Xianqin glanced at Kong Mingming and nodded. "How's the situation?" "Father-in-law, everything went smoothly. Little Peach, that silly girl, believed what I said and thought that I was in love with her. She agreed to my suggestion." Kong Xiaoming said proudly. "That's right." Little Peach, who was next to Tian Chan, heard Kong Mingming's words, and her body trembled visibly. Her eyes flashed with deep indignation and anger. She did not expect Kong Mingming to deceive her again. He actually said such words in front of Patriarch Xianqin. Sure enough, Tian Chan was right. Kong Mingming was not reliable at all. "Yes, but you have to be careful. Don't let me know that there is actually something between you and her." Patriarch Xianqin nodded and said, "Don't worry, father-in-law. With Little Peach's appearance, who would like her? I'm disgusted even if I turn off the lights and go to bed." Kong Mingming hurriedly said, "She is far inferior to Little 11. They're not on the same level at all. I used to get close to her to curry favor with the Sky Silkworm transformation. But now that I have a backer like father-in-law, I don't need to curry favor with others. All right, since that's the case, you can go and formulate a plan." Ancestor Xianqin nodded and said with satisfaction, although Kong Mingming's actions of pursuing Little Peach in order to curry favor with the Sky Silkworm transformation were shameless in the eyes of ordinary people, Ancestor Xianqin was a sinister person. In his eyes, Kong Mingming was a promising talent. Kong Mingming was sinister, but it was enough as long as he didn't do anything sinister to him. "Father-in-law, I'll take my leave now." Kong Mingming turned around and left. Outside the window, Little Peach was trembling with anger and her face was pale. She had never expected that Kong Mingming had been using her to get close to Tian Chan. Tears streamed down Little Peach's face. Although she had been sad when Kong Mingming had rejected her, she had never been this sad. Tian Chan patted Little Peach's shoulder gently and left quietly with her. When they left, Ancestor Xianqin seemed to have sensed Little Peach's emotional fluctuations. He walked to the window and opened it, only to see a disciple passing by not far away. He shook his head and felt that he had been overly suspicious. "Young sect master, I'm sorry. In the past, I did say a lot of good things about Kong Mingming in front of you." Little Peach said sadly and regretfully when she saw Kong Mingming's true colors. "It's okay. I don't blame you. It's human nature to say good things about your lover." Tian Chan waved her hand and said, "I brought you there because I wanted you to see Kong Mingming clearly and not be deceived by him in the future." "Young sect master, don't worry. I will sever all ties with him." Little Peach said firmly, "That's not necessary. You can beat him at his own game and see what he and Martial Uncle Xianqin want to do." Tian Chan guessed that Kong Mingming and Ancestor Xianqin were brewing some sinister plan again. At this time, Little Peach was responsible for helping to inquire about information, so Tian Chan could save some time for investigation. Although it was okay to let Sky Butterfly secretly follow them, Tian Chan would try not to use Sky Butterfly if she could. After all, walking too much at night would also make people encounter ghosts. Sky Butterfly's secret could not be discovered by Ancestor Shinshin. Okay, young sect master, Little Peach will listen to you. Little Peach nodded quickly and said, What should I do? What does Kong Ming Ming want you to do? Just agree and tell me. I will tell you what to do, said Tian Chan. Okay, young sect master. Little Peach replied, Blood-clothed netherworld sect. Ancestor Eeriewoods, I have already investigated. Lin Yi became a cripple some time ago and is in danger. He was poisoned by a poison hidden in the Zhao family. He can't use his true qi, and his meridians are all broken. He has become a cripple. It will be easy to kill him. Ancestor Eeriewoods, the chief steward of blood-clothed netherworld sect, reported to Ancestor Yellow Spring. Oh, then you mean we should send someone to kill Linny now? Ancestor Yellow Spring asked. This, I also said that it was some time ago. Now Lin Yi has recovered and is full of energy. Ancestor Eerie Woods said with a bitter smile. F***CK. Ancestor Yellow Spring couldn't help but curse. What the F***CK were you doing before? Why didn't you say so earlier? You only said it after he recovered. Aren't you saying it after the fact? What's the point? The intelligence team just reported it to me, so I came to report it to you immediately. Ancestor Eeriewoods also felt a little wronged. The intelligence team is a bunch of good-for-nothings. I don't like them from the beginning. Didn't you teach them a lesson? Eeriewoods, don't you know that information is the most important thing in the assassination business? Ancestor Yellow Spring said resentfully. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring, you know that we're an ancient sect. The habit of inquiring about information has been passed down from ancient times. These people rely on their legs and mouths. They don't use modern, technological equipment at all. Ancestor Eeriewoods explained, if it's about the matters and people in the cultivation world, then there's no problem. But when it comes to the people in the secular world, it's difficult because we, the blood-clothed netherworld sect, are an assassination organization in the cultivation world. We don't touch the targets of the secular world at all. Who would have thought that we would encounter a weirdo like Lin Yi? What you said makes sense. Ancestor Yellow Spring nodded and agreed with Ancestor Eeriewoods' words. He was not as angry as before. But this efficiency is not good. It's always hindsight. Where are we going to get revenge? This time it's not all hindsight. I've also received some other news regarding Lin Yi. Old Ancestor Yellow Springs, I'll tell you in detail. Old Ancestor Eeriewoods said quickly. About Lin Yi? All right, go ahead. I hope it's good news, Ancestor Yellow Spring said with a nod. Chapter 3146. You call this good news? Ancestor Netherworld frowned. This Lin Yi can actually kill an expert at the peak of the middle stage of Heaven Stage. How strong is he? According to the investigation, he is at the early stage of Heaven Stage. Ancestor Eeriewoods said, when he was at the Earth Stage, he could kill a Heaven Stage in seconds. Now that he is at the Heaven Stage, it seems that if we want to kill Lin Yi, you will have to do it yourself. Maybe it will be safer if you and I go together. Ancestor Netherworld was not a fool. If Lin Yi could kill a peak of the middle stage of Heaven Stage, who could guarantee that Lin Yi could not kill a peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage? According to many investigations, he had always underestimated Lin Yi's strength, which brought immeasurable and painful consequences to the blood-clothed Netherworld sect. Therefore, this time, Ancestor Netherworld was no longer arrogant. He became smarter and more cautious. That's right. However, there is another piece of news that has not been confirmed. Several other Heaven Stage experts from the Dongfang clan also died in the hands of Lin Yi. Moreover, they were killed in seconds. Therefore, Lin Yi's combat strength cannot be estimated for the time being. Ancestor Eeriewoods said. Moreover, The most important thing is that Lin Yi made a fool out of Heavenly Elixir Sect's Elder Kong Mingming a while ago. But Heavenly Elixir Sect did nothing about it. They have no intention of touching Lin Yi at all. Others may not know, but we know that Heavenly Elixir Sect is backed by the Five Elements Sect. Oh, what's going on? Ancestor, Netherworld, asked quickly after listening. It's like this. Lin Yi invented a first-grade automatic medicine cauldron that can automatically refine elixirs. Ancestor Eerie Woods told Ancestor Netherworld about Lin Yi's recent movements. It's not that the Five Elements Sect does not touch Lin Yi, but they are worried about the Cultivator Trade Association. However, I'm a little worried about Lin Yi. Let's go and find him. Don't fail miserably. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring pondered for a moment and said, Yeah, that's why I don't agree with making Lin Yi our enemy. Eerie Ancestor nodded and said, So, other than that, the intelligence team has a suggestion. Because Lin Yi is too strange, we can attack Lin Yi's family. As long as Lin Yi's family dies, Lin Yi will be heartbroken. It will also be considered as a disguised blow to Lin Yi, and it will also be revenge. All right, ask the intelligence team to find out who Lin Yi's family is and where they are as soon as possible, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring said. Yes, this subordinate will go and investigate. Old Ancestor Eerie Woods hurriedly agreed. In fact, there was no need to investigate. The reason why the intelligence team made this suggestion was because they had already gotten some results from their investigation. Therefore, not long after Patriarch Eerie Woods went back to understand the situation, he brought the person in charge of the Yellow Spring Sect's intelligence team to Patriarch Yellow Spring. This subordinate, Flying Cat, greets the old ancestor Yellow Spring. The person in charge of the intelligence team was called Flying Cat, and he did have the ability to leap onto roofs and vault over walls. However, his ability was limited to the cultivation world, and he wasn't as good at getting information about the common world. This was also the reason why it took so long to investigate Lin Yi. And according to Eerie Woods, you've already found out about Lin Yi's family? Old Ancestor Yellow Spring asked. He was quite happy this time. The efficiency of the intelligence team almost made him curse out loud, even though his mother had died a long time ago. Yes, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring. According to my investigation, the women closest to Lin Yi are Meng Yao, Yushu, Tang Yin, Xiao Xiao, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing. These are the ones who are closer to Lin Yi. The rest don't appear around Lin Yi often, so I didn't investigate further. Flying Cat said, Oh, so you're saying that if we kill all these women, Lin Yi will be sad? But that Chu something Yao, why does that name sound so familiar? I think I've heard it somewhere before. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring asked. You're wise, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring. Flying Cat nodded. This Chu Mengyao is the inheritor of the Dark Palace. She's also the reason why the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace and the ancient Dongfang House became enemies. Then what are you talking about? Do we dare touch someone like that? If she dies, our Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect will become the public enemy of the ancient world. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring frowned. Even if the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect was one of the more unique ones in the ancient world, and people didn't dare mess with them easily, but if they were to go against the interests of the entire ancient world, the only result would be death. And so, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring was very annoyed. Can't you say something useful? Ugh, the useful thing is that we can't touch any of these women. Flying Cat smiled bitterly. Not a single one of them. What do you mean? Old Ancestor Yellow Spring paused, thinking that he heard wrong. Yushu, if our investigation is correct, she should be the inheritor of the fire element that the Five Elements sect has been secretly nurturing through the Hidden House You. And Tang Yin is the inheritor of the Snow Valley, and she is now the elder of the Snow Valley. Xiao Xiao is the heir of Ice Palace, and is now the vice leader of Ice Palace. As for Han Jingjing, she was Five Elements sect. She was the student of Patriarch Profound Heaven. However, she was not an ordinary student, but a student who could concoct pills. Patriarch Profound Heaven valued her greatly, so even Patriarch Profound Earth didn't dare to make a move against her. As for Wang Xinyan, she's an elder of the Sky Elixir sect, and the fiancée of Elder Xuanqin's son-in-law, Kong Mingming's big brother Kong Xiaolong. She's not easy to touch. Flying Cat explained. But old ancestor Yellow Spring couldn't take it anymore. At the end of the day, this Lin Yi is surrounded by people related to the Five Element sect, so how are we supposed to kill them? No matter who we kill, our blood cloak Yellow Spring sect will die. Even if we kill the people from the Day and Day sect, we can't touch people related to the Five Element sect. This old ancestor Yellow Spring, please let me finish. Flying Cat said helplessly, I'm just reporting the results of my investigation, but that doesn't mean we can't touch the people I'm about to say. Oh, go on then. Who else can we touch around Lin Yi? Asked old ancestor Huang Quan with a frown. We can't touch the women around Lin Yi, but we can touch his family, Flying Cat said. According to our investigation, Lin Yi has returned to a place called Star West Village a few times, and there's a grandfather there. Of course, we can't find out the specifics, only that his surname is Lin, and he's just a normal villager in the common world. It's not worth investigating his name. All we know is that he's a traveling doctor. Chapter 30, 147. That's right. No matter how I think about it, only this person's death will make Linny sad, and we won't get into any trouble. Flying Cat nodded. Otherwise, killing any of the women around Lin Yi will cause great trouble. Only this old man's death will be fine. So, I suggest that we kill this old man. Oh, since he's just a country bumpkin, can we just send any golden class expert to deal with him? Old ancestor Yellow Spring said indifferently. That won't do. Flying Cat shook his head. I'm afraid that what if Lin Yi goes back? That's true. In that case, In-san and I will personally go and kill this old man first. Then we'll wait for Lin Yi to come and die. Originally, old ancestor Yellow Spring was also very worried about going to the secular world to deal with Lin Yi. After all, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was different from the ancient sections. There was no such thing as revenge in the assassin group. Once they accepted the task, they would either kill or be killed. If the assassin group also participated in the revenge, it would be a mess. However, because Lin Yi was a rogue cultivator and Lin Yi didn't have any influence when they investigated him, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect chose to retaliate. However, this was done secretly. If it was done in the open, the other ancient sects wouldn't be happy. If the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect came to kill me, and I was lucky enough not to be killed, would you send endless people to continue killing me? This obviously went against the original intention of the task and broke the rules. The blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was not allowed to act in the secular world. This was not only a rule of the ancient level, but also a promise that the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was forced to make. This promise was also a promise to the assassin group in the secular world. They would never cross the boundary of the world of assassins and would never touch the secular world. Although it sounded a bit funny, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was like a high and mighty ancient sect. How could they compromise with a secular assassin group? Yet they compromised. There was no other reason, but because the biggest assassin group in the secular world was one of the two ruthless people who swept through the ancient level. Mr. Yang, one of the dual fiends of Vajra, was in charge. When he faced Mr. Yang, Blood Robes, and Yellow Spring sect's master, the king of assassins in the cultivation world had no choice but to lower his head and follow Mr. Yang out of Blood Robes and Yellow Spring sect. Although the departure of the king of assassins in the cultivation world was known throughout the ancient times, no one knew that Mr. Yang was the king of assassins in the secular world. This was the inside story of the assassin industry. Without Mr. Yang's permission, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect would attack. He didn't dare to make it public. What's more, this wasn't something to be proud of. An assassin organization in the cultivation world bowed down to an assassin organization in the secular world. This was simply an unimaginable fantasy. Even though those two ruthless men had disappeared for more than a decade, they were still able to survive. Moreover, the other ancient and hidden planes had also begun to gradually forget about the negative influence brought by these two ruthless people. However, it would be best if they could get rid of Lin Yi without breaking the promise of the past. After all, in the hearts of Yellow Spring and Blood Robes, the two ruthless dual fiends of Udra had already cast a shadow over them. The West Star Mountain Village was remote and basically couldn't be considered as the secular world. Killing Lin Yi's relatives there and then attracting Lin Yi to kill Lin Yi wouldn't be considered breaking the promise of the past. Why don't let blood-clothed ancestor take action? You and him are both experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage. Even if Lin Yi is strange, the three of us together will be able to kill Lin Yi. Gloomy Ancestor suggested cautiously. All right, blood-clothed ancestor is about to come out of seclusion. It's a good time to relax and kill some people. Ancestor Yellow Spring pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. If that's the case, it'll be hard for Lin Yi to not die. Gloomy Ancestor laughed sinisterly. Heavenly Elixir Sect. Kong Ming Ming came up with a plan and looked for Little Peach again. On the surface, Little Peach didn't seem to notice anything and still looked forward to being with Kong Ming Ming in the future. However, in her heart, she was already completely disappointed in Kong Ming Ming. Brother Kong, you asked Little Peach to come because that matter has been confirmed? What do you need Little Peach to do? Little Peach asked very enthusiastically. It's like this. This time, there's a very good opportunity to arrange for you to go to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company and become Kong Xiaobo's secretary. Kong Ming Ming said. Previously, Kong Xiaobo's secretary resigned. Currently, the company is recruiting, but they need a certain understanding of pharmacology. And you meet this requirement. You have professional research on medicinal herbs and pharmacology. I believe that this position will not be difficult for you at all, because a secretary is also a servant, and you are also the servant of the young master in Heavenly Elixir Sect. So, these things will be easy for you. Originally, Kong Ming Ming was still thinking about how to send Little Peach to Kong Xiaobo's side and let her get close to Kong Xiaobo. He wanted to use some tricks, but he didn't expect such an opportunity to suddenly appear in front of him. This made Kong Ming Ming inexplicably happy. This was simply tailor-made for Little Peach. Actually, some time ago, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was in a crisis, and the secretary beside Kong Xiaobo, because of his poor foresight, felt that Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company would not be able to recover. So, he submitted his resignation letter. Because Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was in a bad situation, Kong Xiaobo didn't hire a new secretary until Lu Jing'an's first-grade automatic cauldron was sold, and Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was back on the right track. Fatty Lai and Kong Xiaobo heaved a sigh of relief, and then they started to hire again. They replaced the employees who left when the company was in a crisis, and one of them was Kong Xiaobo's secretary. This created a good opportunity for Kong Ming Ming. He effortlessly sent Little Peach away. He didn't even need to make up a story. Okay, then I'll go apply for the job now. But how do I apply for leave from the young master? Little Peach quickly nodded and asked, Then, does that mean I won't be taken advantage of? That won't work. Haven't you heard of this saying? If the boss doesn't have anything to do, the secretary does. If you don't get taken advantage of, then how can you get close to Kong Xiaobo and make him trust you so that you can steal the technology of the first-grade automatic cauldron? Kong Ming Ming shook his head and said, It's okay, I won't despise you. Just treat it as you sacrificing yourself for me. Little Peach, don't worry. Chapter 30-148. Peach, on the other hand, treated it as a joke. Her face didn't change at all. Then, would Xiaobo be interested in someone like me? He is a big boss. What kind of woman hasn't he seen? How can he like me? This is not necessarily true. My cousin has a special hobby. The women he likes are different from others. He even likes the cripple, let alone you. When Kong Mingming said this, he suddenly realized that he had made a slip of the tongue. He quickly explained, "Little Peach, of course, I'm not saying that you are not good-looking. You are a talented woman with inner beauty. I believe that Kong Xiaobo will discover this when the time comes. You don't have to worry. As long as you are willing to put in some effort, you can definitely get him hooked." "Okay, then I'll try." Little Peach nodded. If it was before, she would definitely be angry when Kong Mingming said this to her. But now, Kong Mingming was just a passerby in her eyes. There was nothing to be angry about. Remember, no matter what, you must please Kong Xiaobo and get the information. Kong Mingming said, "Only when we get the information can we be together in the future. Otherwise, Master will definitely not allow me to marry a second wife." And I got it. Little Peach despised in her heart. Even if I get the information, Patriarch Xianqin will not agree to let me be your concubine. If that's the case, then you go and prepare. Then, I will ask Master to inform the young sect master. I believe that with Patriarch Xianqin, the young sect master will not obstruct us for such a small matter. Kong Mingming said. "Brother Kong, then I'll go first." Little Peach nodded. Looking at Little Peach's back as she left, Kong Mingming's mouth flashed a sneer. "It just so happens that I don't know how to deal with Little Peach. This time, I can give her to my brother, who likes to pick up used shoes. TSK, it's really a bargain for Kong Xiaobo. I haven't even touched Little Peach, but with her trashy looks, even if I touch her, I won't be interested." After Little Peach left, she immediately went to Tian Chan's room. She told Tian Chan everything that Kong Mingming had told her today. Tian Chan frowned slightly. In that case, Patriarch Xianqin and Kong Mingming wanted to deal with Lin Yi. They wanted to obtain the manufacturing information of first-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons from Lin Yi. Sure enough, he hadn't let Little Peach feign ignorance for nothing. He had actually obtained such an important piece of information. Should he warn Lin Yi? However, after pondering for a moment, Tian Chan gave up on this idea. Firstly, she wanted to inform Lin Yi at this time. It was easy to be exposed. Secondly, what identity should she use to inform Lin Yi? And most importantly, Little Peach had already betrayed Kong Mingming. Therefore, Tian Chan didn't have to worry that Little Peach would really betray Lin Yi. So she nodded and said, "I understand. You can leave first. I will think of a way." "Okay, young master." Little Peach knew that Tian Chan wouldn't harm her, so she left with peace of mind. After Little Peach left, Tian Chan suddenly said, "Tian Dai, come in." A black shadow floated in from the window. It was Tian Dai. "Young master." Tian Dai's face was cold, and she said respectfully to Tian Chan, "Tian Dai, go investigate the information about Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Kong Xiaobo, and then come back to me immediately." Tian Chan ordered Tian Dai. "Yes, young master." Tian Dai replied and disappeared again in the blink of an eye. Not long after Tian Dai left, there were footsteps outside Tian Chan's door. If Tian Chan didn't hear wrongly, the person who came was Ancestor Xianqin. She didn't expect Ancestor Xianqin to come in person. This was a great honor, and it also showed Ancestor Xianqin's determination to send Little Peach out. If Ancestor Xianqin had casually greeted Tian Chan previously, it was possible for her to refuse. But now that Ancestor Xianqin had come in person, if Tian Chan refused again, it would not only arouse suspicion, but Tian Chan wouldn't be able to resist Ancestor Xianqin's anger. After all, the reason why the entire Heavenly Elixir sect could become the leader of the ancient sects was not only because of alchemy, but also because of the support of the Five Elements sect. Without the support of the Five Elements sect, The Heavenly Elixir sect was just a small alchemy sect, and it was impossible for it to grow so quickly. Therefore, whether from the perspective of public or private, Tian-chan couldn't refuse. Sky Silkworm Transformation. What are you busy with? Under Little Peach's guidance, Ancestor Xianqin smiled and walked into Tian-chan's room. Behind him was Kong Mingming. Sky Silkworm Transformation greets Uncle Master Xianqin. Tian-chan hurriedly greeted. May I know why Uncle Master Xianqin has come here personally? If you have any errands, just call me over. Actually, it's not a big deal. Ancestor Xianqin shook his head and smiled. Isn't it because of me, his son-in-law? I think you know about the matter between him and your maidservant, Little Peach. Although he married my daughter, he still has Little Peach, his first love, in his heart. At first, I was against it. Naturally, I didn't want my daughter to snatch a man from another woman. However, I don't know what Zhao Ming told my daughter, but she actually agreed to let him take a concubine and let Little Peach become his concubine. Since my daughter has said so, as a father, it's not good for me to be a villain. So, it's better to fulfill their wish. Anyway, my daughter's willing, so I can't say anything, right? Tian-chan naturally didn't believe Ancestor Xuanqin's nonsense, but on the surface, she had to pretend to be very surprised. Is that so? So that's how it is. Uncle Master, what do you mean? Well, Zhao Ming has nothing to do recently. I asked him to bring Little Peach home to visit his family. It might take a while, so I specially came over to tell you to take a leave, Ancestor Xianqin said. Anyway, you have a maidservant, Tianxi now. You don't need Little Peach, so there's no problem, right? Of course there's no problem, since Uncle Master Xianqin has spoken, and the person involved is also willing. I can't stop it. Tian-chan smiled and said, We are an ancient sect, and we still have the customs of ancient times. Polygamy is within reason, and in my eyes it is very normal. Even I am like this. So how can I ask my subordinates to do it? After all, the image of Tian-chan in the outside world was that she was elegant and had many women, so there was no problem with her words. However, these words were purely for Kong Mingming to hear. Chapter 30, 149. Thank you, young master. Kong Mingming quickly cupped his fist and said, he didn't expect Tian Silkworm to be so easy to talk to. She agreed without stopping him at all. But thinking about it, his father-in-law was here in person. How could Tian Silkworm, as a junior, not give him face? Ancestor Xianqin was very satisfied. He thought that he would have to spend a lot of time talking. He didn't expect Tian-chan to be so reasonable. However, Ancestor Xianqin considered the problem from the perspective of Tian-chan being a girl. Now, it seemed that Tian-chan's personality had become more like a man after years of disguise. Therefore, Ancestor Xianqin didn't suspect anything and left with Kong Mingming. High-quality update. After Ancestor Xianqin left with Kong Mingming, only Tian-chan and Little Peach were left in the room. Tian-chan said, when the time comes, go to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company and do what you need to do. You can build a good relationship with Kong Xiaobo, but you don't have to seduce him. You don't have to care about what Kong Mingming said to you. Just do your job. As for the information, don't think about it for now. Yes, young master, Little Peach quickly agreed. Little Peach quickly agreed. To be honest, if she didn't have to sacrifice her body, Little Peach would be very willing to go to the secular world to see the world. After all, she had lived in the Heavenly Elixir sect since she was a child and had never been exposed to the outside world. Although she wouldn't complain, who wouldn't yearn for those new things? If possible, Little Peach would be very willing to go to the secular world. High-quality update Tian Dai was very efficient. That night, a piece of information about Kong Xiaobo was sent to Tian-chan. Blood Cloak Underworld sect didn't use some high-tech methods, but Tian Dai didn't rule out the possibility that Tian Dai wouldn't use it. There were many reports about Kong Xiaobo and Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. As for Kong Xiaobo, she would know more or less after asking his former classmates. When Tian Chan saw that Kong Xiaobo was Lin Yi's first follower, she couldn't help but be surprised. She didn't expect Kong Xiaobo and Lin Yi to have such a relationship. Kong Xiaobo was Lin Yi's follower, and Little Peach was her maid. If Little Peach really followed Kong Xiaobo, it wouldn't be a loss. Suddenly, Tian Chan realized that she was thinking too much. Why did she suddenly think of these messy things? This made Tian Chan's face slightly hot. Fortunately, there was only Tian Dai in the room. Tian Dai worshipped Tian Chan blindly. She wouldn't think that there was anything wrong with Tian Chan, nor would she doubt Tian Chan's matters. This Xiao Fen is a woman that Kong Ming Ming dumped in the past, and she jumped off a building. A cripple too? Tian Chan was a little surprised. This Xiaobo was too much of a love, falling for Fun. As for the matter of Xiao Fun's leg recovering, Tian Chan didn't find it strange. She fell down the cliff and was about to die, but Lin Yi still saved her. A leg wasn't a problem for Lin Yi. High-quality update, however. These matters also made Tian Chan come to a conclusion. Kong Xiaobo was a good person. This made her feel at ease about Little Peach's matter. After asking Tian Dai to leave, Tian Chan called Little Peach over again. "Young sect master, you were looking for me?" Little Peach didn't know why Tian Chan called her over so quickly. Kong Xiaobo is a good person. If possible, he is a good choice, Tian Chan said faintly. Even Tian Chan herself didn't understand why she said this. Just to find an identity illusion? Ah. Little Peach was stunned. She didn't expect Tian Chan to say this. Young sect master, nothing. This is Kong Xiaobo's information. Take a look. I just think that if you stay in the Heavenly Elixir sect, you will be killed by Kong Ming Ming sooner or later. Staying in the secular world is an opportunity, Tian Chan said, and put a stack of information in front of Little Peach. Young sect master, I don't want to leave you. Don't chase me away, okay? Little Peach was shocked and quickly said, Who said I want to chase you away? I just want you to stay in the secular world. Maybe one day I don't want to be the young sect master anymore. Maybe I will go to you. At that time you can still see me. Tian Chan said, You should understand what I mean. Ah, I understand. Little Peach was slightly stunned. Then she remembered that Tian Chan was a woman. So, in the future, the Heavenly Elixir sect must continue the family line. But Tian Chan couldn't. She could only take over Tian Chan's position and then give birth to a new young sect master. However, Little Peach would never think that Tian Chan's idea was just because Kong Xiaobo was Lin Yi's little brother. Well, take a look at this information. You can also understand Kong Xiaobo and have a response. Tian Chan nodded and said, Okay, young sect master. Little Peach picked up Kong Xiaobo's information. This information was very detailed. From when Kong Xiaobo was in the same class as Lin Yi in school, to the conflict with Kong Ming Ming's family, to attending the birthday banquet with Xiao Fin, avenging Xiao Fin, and then becoming the vice CEO of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Everything was written clearly. Actually, when Tian Chan first got this information, she also felt that it was very magical. Lin Yi was actually a student. Moreover, from the information, Lin Yi seemed to be unable to go against the secular houses. The secular house you already made Lin Yi very afraid, let alone the hidden houses. However, in a short period of less than a year, he grew to such a level. It was really unbelievable. From a golden class master to a sky class master he used less than a year? Tian Chan suddenly felt a sense of defeat. She and Bingtang were the top prodigies in the ancient world. Other than people like Zhang Naipeo, who used extreme methods to train, people like them who didn't use medicinal pellets to break through to sky class were very rare. Even so, they used more than 10 years, unlike Lin Yi, who stepped into sky class in less than a year. Before, Tian Chan still felt that her position and Lin Yi's were too far apart, and they wouldn't have the chance to be together in this lifetime. But now that she looked at this information, Tian Chan's heart was suddenly filled with anticipation. If Lin Yi was given a period of time, the ancient world would no longer be an obstacle for Lin Yi. Just like the former noble house level and the hidden level, they would all become the stepping stones for Lin Yi to rise to the top. And at that moment, even the Xianqin old ancestor wouldn't be able to pose a threat to Lin Yi. Now Tian Chan also understood why the Xianqin old ancestor was so afraid of Lin Yi. In time, they probably wouldn't be Lin Yi's opponent anymore. Chapter 3150. Because according to Tian Chan's research, Lin Yi was the most powerful existence in the same level at every level. It was a very easy thing for Lin Yi to fight against enemies of a higher level. If Lin Yi was promoted to the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage, would he become the number one in the world? The number one person under the heavenly Tao? This was not a joke, it was very possible. Of course, Tian Chan omitted this information and did not give it to Little Peach. The information that Little Peach looked at was basically about Kong Xiaobo, and there were only a few pieces of information about Lin Yi. Kong Ming. So he is such a bad person? Little Peach looked at the information, her eyes full of anger. Previously, she was fascinated by Kong Ming, but now it seemed that she was too stupid. Little Peach, you finally saw through him? Tian Chan shook her head and said, Kong Ming is a person who is blinded by greed. When he first joined the Heavenly Elixir sect, I felt that this person's nature was not good. But seeing that you like him, I didn't say much. Now it seems that you and him did not continue to develop. Otherwise, you will still suffer in the future. One day, if Kong Ming meets a stronger backer, he can also get rid of Little 11 and old ancestor Xianqin. Sigh, young sect leader, thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I would have thought that Kong Ming was forced to do this. Little Peach sighed. She did not expect that her beautiful first love would end so cruelly. In the future, she would also learn to be smart and not easily trust others. All right, you pack up and go to Xiaobo's company. Xiaobo's a nice guy. If he likes you, I'll be happy to meet him. If he likes you, you will have a good marriage. Tian Chan had a good impression of Kong Xiaobo. Besides, how bad could Lin Yi's little brother be? Moreover, truth be told, Tian Chan's other goal was to get in touch with Lin Yi through Little Peach and Kong Xiaobo. Since Kong Xiaobo was a really good person, and the ancient sect didn't pay much attention to the first wife and second wife, Tian Chan felt that Kong Xiaobo was a good person. This was a good home for Little Peach. Little Peach was stunned. She didn't expect that Tian Chan would ask her to get in touch with Kong Xiaobo. Little Peach was not a person who couldn't tell right from wrong. When she saw Kong Xiaobo's introduction, she knew that Kong Xiaobo was a good man. Compared with Kong Ming, they were like heaven and earth. It would be a lie to say that Little Peach did not have a good impression of such a man. However, Little Peach had just suffered an emotional setback. Let her walk out of the shadow and start another love. It wasn't easy. At least, she was a little disappointed and didn't dare to fall in love. Young sect leader, I want to serve you for the rest of my life. I don't want to get married. Little Peach hesitated and said, If you can be with Kong Xiaobo, maybe in the future, you will still be by my side. Tian Chan smiled mysteriously. What do you mean? Young sect leader, do you also like Kong Xiaobo? Little Peach was slightly stunned. Tian Chan suddenly had black lines on her forehead. I don't like Kong Xiaobo. Okay, don't ask. Quickly pack up and report to me if there's any news. Okay. Young sect leader. Little Peach nodded and went to pack her things after the baptism of ups and downs in Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company. A portion of the employees who were uncertain about the company resigned and went elsewhere. As for those who were loyal to the company, Fatty Lai and Kong Xiaobo raised their positions and salaries accordingly, making them happy for their choice. Little Peach, with her excellent theoretical knowledge and well-educated image, successfully overcame all obstacles and became Kong Xiaobo's new secretary. As for the new secretary, Kong Xiaobo was very happy. Even Fatty Lai was jealous. Fatty Lai's secretary was also someone who got in through connections, and he also resigned this time. However, Little Peach applied for the position of vice president's secretary and not the CEO's secretary. So Fatty Lai couldn't take her away. So, on the first day of the recruitment, Little Peach immediately took up the position. Her strong professional knowledge made Kong Xiaobo look at her in a different light, and he started to rely on her more and more. As for Little Peach's successful promotion, Kong Mingming was very excited, especially when Kong Xiaobo trusted Little Peach more and more. Kong Mingming felt that the day when he got a first-grade medicine cauldron was not far away. Because of Tian Chan's first impression, Little Peach's impression of Kong Xiaobo was very good. In the company, because she was only responsible for Kong Xiaobo, she was in contact with Kong Xiaobo every day, and this made Little Peach pay more and more attention to Kong Xiaobo. However, what made Kong Mingming disappointed was that the information Little Peach sent back had nothing to do with first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons, and the work and financial reports that Kong Xiaobo handled every day had nothing to do with first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons. Either the processed first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons weren't handled by Kong Xiaobo, or the first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons weren't produced by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company at all. As Little Peach became more and more trusted by Kong Xiaobo, she came into contact with more and more core secrets of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. She even came into contact with some of the raw materials and production costs of products such as painkillers and injury medicine. But there was not a single bit of information about first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons. Of course, the information Little Peach reported was filtered by Tian Chan. Tian Chan would always pass some information that seemed precious, but was actually useless to Little Peach to pass to Kong Mingming. For example, there were many raw materials for injury medicine and painkillers, but Tian Chan picked out a few of the most common raw materials and asked Little Peach to tell Kong Mingming so that Kong Mingming wouldn't suspect anything. As for the information about first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons, Little Peach really didn't get it. It wasn't that she purposely hid it. After a period of investigation, Kong Mingming gradually lost his patience. After all, he also guessed that first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons weren't produced by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but by House Lu. Now that he thought about it, it was really possible. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was just a name. After all, first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons were electronic devices, while Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company produced medicinal materials. After Kong Mingming's investigation, House Lu did own an electronic company. It used to produce computer parts, but now it changed to making first-grade automatic medicine cauldrons. It was possible. Chapter 3151. Thinking of this, Kong Mingming no longer placed his hopes on Little Peach. However, he did not withdraw Little Peach. In his opinion, the further Little Peach went, the better. It would be better if she was no longer by his side. In this way, he would not be annoyed if he did not see her. It would save him the trouble of causing Ancestor Xianqin and Little 11 to misunderstand. It had to be said that Kong Mingming was a vicious person. Next, Kong Mingming decided to infiltrate the Lu family's electronics factory. After all, the Lu family's factory was not a monolithic entity. It was very easy to bribe 1 or 2 workers. Kong Mingming was familiar with using money to bribe people. Now he was even more skilled at it. He quickly found a foreman of the electronics factory whose mother was ill and whose family was short of money. He asked him out and met him in a small cafe. "Foreman Su, I want to ask you a few questions. As long as you answer truthfully, this 10,000 yuan is yours." Kong Xiaoming pointed at the bag on the table and said, "Of course, if I'm interested in your answer and you want to continue helping me, then the 500,000 kuai in this box is also yours." To be honest, 10,000 yuan was not very tempting for Chief Foreman Su. After all, His monthly salary was several thousand yuan. 10,000 yuan was not enough for him to sell the company's core secrets. However, there were only a few problems, so Chief Foreman Su nodded. What he was most interested in was the box of 500,000 yuan. If he could get his hands on this box of money, Chief Foreman Su would be able to perform surgery on his bedridden mother. Therefore, Foreman Su nodded without hesitation. What do you want to know? I want to ask you, is the first-grade automatic medicine cauldron produced by your electronics factory? Kong Ming was very satisfied with Foreman Su's answer. Of course, this was also because before he found Foreman Su, he had done a detailed understanding of Foreman Su. He knew the difficulties of Foreman Su's family. Therefore, he was so confident to put out so much money. Otherwise, if he failed, he might expose his target. In the future, if Linny was on guard, it would be difficult. First-grade automatic medicine cauldron? Chief Worker Su was slightly taken aback. What is that? Kong Ming furrowed his brows when he saw Foreman Su's expression. Was he wrong? This first-grade automatic medicine cauldron wasn't manufactured by the Liu family's electronics factory? Kong Ming furrowed his brows. He reluctantly took out the undamaged first-grade automatic medicine cauldron from his backpack and asked, "Take a look. Are you sure this thing hasn't been produced before?" "Ah, you mean this? Isn't this an electric cooker?" Su Changgong pointed at the thing in Kong Ming's hand and said, "This is produced. Is that what you're asking about? Electric cooker?" Kong Ming was speechless. He nodded and said, "It's this pot. Are you still producing them?" "Yes, it's still in production, but this pot is made of titanium alloy. The production process is more complicated and the output is lower. It's also very troublesome to assemble. For this electric cooker, we've updated many of our production lines and the technicians have undergone new training." Chief Worker Su said, "Mr. Kong, is this what you want to know?" "That's right. This 10,000 is yours." Kong Ming let out a sigh of relief. It seemed like his guess was right. The first-grade automatic medicine cauldron wasn't produced by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but by House Liu's. It seemed like Little Peach's move was wasted, but it didn't matter. He could just treat it as an excuse to send her away. Worker Su's face revealed a relaxed expression. He took the 10,000 yuan from Kong Xiaoming and asked, "Excuse me, what do I need to do next to get this 500,000? "Collect information," Kong Ming said. "As long as you can get me the production process and information for this electric cooker, this 500,000 is yours." After Foreman Su heard this, he suddenly hesitated. He was indeed the foreman, but he was only in charge of one of the processes. He wasn't the foreman of all the processes. He knew the production process and information of one of his processes, but it didn't mean that he knew the production process and information of all the production lines. "I can only give it a try. The production process and information for the production line I'm in charge of are fine, but I'll have to collect the rest slowly." Chief Foreman Su hesitated for a moment before he said, "Of course, there's also the cost of treating you to a meal. You also know that if you want to know these secrets, unless the foreman of the other production lines have a slip of the tongue after getting drunk, or if they've forgotten to put the documents in a place where they can be easily reached, it'll be very difficult to meet your requirements." "You mean this 500,000 isn't enough?" Kong Ming understood what Chief Worker Su meant. "This 500,000 is my reward. Other than that, I also need 100,000 to treat you to a meal." Chief Worker Su hesitated and said, "Sure, no problem." Kong Ming nodded. He waved to a 5 Elements sect disciple beside him and said, "Go get another 100,000 and give it to Chief Worker Su." "Yes." The disciple nodded and went to do his job. As for Chief Worker Su, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. After finishing this job, he would take his mother far away. The surgery would cost $200,000, and the remaining money would be enough for him to hide his identity and start a small business. After giving the 610,000 to chief worker Su, Kong Ming Ming left his contact information and left quietly. He didn't want to stay in the secular world for too long. If he was discovered by Lin Yi's people, it would be troublesome. Now that chief worker Su was helping him secretly, Kong Ming Ming could save himself a lot of trouble. All he had to do was watch the changes behind the scenes. These days, Lin Yi lived a comfortable life. During the day, Su Shirhan and Qing Yi would practice singing upstairs, while Yushu would sit in the living room and watch TV or go upstairs to watch Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi's performance. Although she looked happy, Lin Yi could see the sadness in the depths of her smile. Lin Yi could guess that Yushu was worried about her future and that Mingyao's departure had taken a toll on her. She wasn't as playful and happy as she used to be, and that happiness was just a facade. Chapter 3152. Luckily, under Lu Jing'an's supervision, the first-grade cauldrons were selling like hotcakes, saving Lin Yi from having to worry about money. Xiaoka's orphanage was back on the right track as well. However, this seemingly peaceful life made Lin Yi a little worried. Wasn't it a little too peaceful? House Dongfang seemed to have disappeared without a trace, making Lin Yi think that they were planning a bigger conspiracy? Or were they completely afraid? There was also the ancient House Feng, Feng Shipian, and Su Shirhan's father, Feng Tianlin, didn't send any more accurate news. Whether Su Shirhan left or continued to be protected by Lin Yi, there was no new news. Anyway, the Miss had left the villa, and Su Shirhan had moved in. Since they didn't leave, Lin Yi wanted them to be Yushu's companions. After all, Lin Yi was training and researching the forging fire every day, so he didn't have much time to talk to Shu. Shu also didn't disturb Lin Yi. It could be seen that Shu understood that Lin Yi was training hard for her, the Miss, Xiao Xiao, and Tang Yun, who he had forgotten. Donghai City was very peaceful, but West Star Village welcomed 3 uninvited guests. These 3 people were the Blood Cloak Ancestor, who had just come out of his closed-door training, the Yellow Spring Ancestor, and the Dark Forest Ancestor, who had the same strength as him. The 3 of them went to West Star Village to look for a traveling doctor called Old Lin. After thorough investigation, this person was the one who raised Lin Yi. He was his foster grandfather, and their relationship was similar to that of a real grandfather. As long as this person died, Lin Yi would definitely go to West Star Village. At that time, it would be Lin Yi's death. No matter how powerful Lin Yi was, the Yellow Spring Ancestor believed that the 2 of them, who had the strength of a peak late phase heaven class, would definitely be able to make Lin Yi die. This combination was more than enough to kill 2 peak late phase heaven class masters, let alone Lin Yi, who hadn't reached the peak late phase heaven class yet. Of course, after they came to West Star Village, they didn't act rashly. Although this was a remote village, and if the Blood Cloak Ancestor made a move here, it wouldn't alarm anyone, but this was the mortal world. So they didn't dare act recklessly. After all, the twin Vajra evils had left a huge psychological shadow in their hearts. Before they did anything, they would always consider whether or not they would violate the rules that the twin Vajra evils had set for them. If they did, what would happen? It would be a disaster. The Vajra twin demons have disappeared for more than 10 years, and this place can no longer be considered the secular world in the true sense. The mountains are high, and the Emperor is far away, and the Vajra twin demons don't have clairvoyance and hearing. How could they know that we're here? The Gloomy Ancestor could also see that the Yellow Spring Ancestor and the Blood Cloak Ancestor were a little scared, so he quickly comforted them, although he was also a little scared. Gloomy Ancestor, you're right. We're doing things here without anyone noticing. No matter how powerful the Killer Kong duo is, it's impossible for them to come to such a remote place. Besides, they may not still exist in this world. Maybe they've already fallen. The Yellow Spring Ancestor nodded and said in agreement. In fact, he was also cheering for himself. Yellow Springs? That's hard to say. I keep having this uneasy feeling. The blood cloak ancestor frowned and said, I heard that some peerless masters like to live in seclusion. Those two might not necessarily have disappeared. Maybe they're hiding somewhere, waiting for someone to violate the rules, and suddenly jump out to kill them. Blood cloak. I think you've been in seclusion for a long time, so you're guessing others based on your own feelings, right? Even if that kind of master lives in seclusion, it's impossible for him to live in seclusion in such a place. No one knows that we've come here secretly. How could Lin be related to those two? The Yellow Spring ancestor waved his hand and said, I think we'd better not worry too much. It's not that I'm worrying too much, but I think it's better to be careful. The blood cloak ancestor nodded. He also felt that he was worrying too much, so he didn't say anything more. Instead, he followed the footsteps and walked in the direction of the West Star Village. During the day, they didn't do anything. They just chose to have a meal at Widow Wang's restaurant at the entrance of the village. They claimed that they were old and came here to visit their relatives. No one would think much of this reason, including Widow Wang. After all, although there were few tourists in the West Star Village, it didn't mean that there were none. Sometimes, when people from the surrounding villages visited their relatives, they would still come here for a meal. The three of them didn't stay idle either. While they were eating, they also chatted with many people who came to Widow Wang's grocery store in the village and roughly confirmed one thing. That was, there was indeed an old Lin in this village, and he was a traveling doctor. And Lin Yi was also old Lin's godson. He had been raised since he was a child. It was said that he was working in the city and had established his own company. He had also made a fortune. This information made the Yellow Spring ancestor and the other two feel relieved. It seemed that this trip was not in vain. Their goal was here. It wasn't until the sun went down that Ancestor Erie Woods paid the bill and left Widow Wang's restaurant with Ancestor Yellow Spring and Ancestor Blood-Clothed. Although they could totally not pay the bill, they didn't want to cause trouble, so they didn't bully the people in the secular world. According to the information they had just inquired, Old Lin's residence was on the edge of the village, in a small independent courtyard closest to the back mountain. Although they didn't understand why Old Lin would live in such a remote courtyard, it was better this way. It was convenient for them to kill. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun if the neighbors were alarmed. Therefore, the Yellow Spring ancestor and the other two went all the way west and arrived near Old Lin's house. Is he asleep? Or is he not home? Why is there no light? Ancestor, blood-clothed, looked at the house not far away with some doubt. It's normal for country people to sleep early. Let's go and have a look. It's just an old man. He can't run away. It doesn't matter even if we alert him. Ancestor Yellow Spring waved his hand and said indifferently. Ancestor Blood-Clothed nodded and walked to Old Lin's house with Ancestor Yellow Spring and Ancestor Erie Woods. Chapter 3153. However, what surprised him was that, in the middle of the courtyard, there was a man sitting at a table with his back facing the door. He was quietly holding a glass of wine while admiring the moon, and there was a plate of fennel beans on the table. You're here? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Lin Dongfeng did not turn around. He raised the glass in his hand, drank it in one gulp, and threw a fennel bean into his mouth. Lin Dongfeng's words stunned Patriarch Netherworld, Patriarch Bloodcloak, and Patriarch Erie Woods. What was going on? Why wasn't Old Lin afraid? 3 people intruded in the middle of the night. Instead of turning around to ask what was going on, he said, I've been waiting for you for a long time. What did he mean? Are you Old Lin? Patriarch Netherworld looked at Lin Dongfeng and did not sense any aura of a cultivator, so he was a little puzzled by Lin Dongfeng's arrogance. Could it be that this old man had something to rely on? Oh, you can call me that. Of course, you can also call me Senior Lin, Lin Dongfeng said lightly. The food at the entrance of the village is delicious, right? You know about it? Patriarch Netherworld looked at Lin Dongfang's back in disbelief. He subconsciously became a little vigilant. Who was this person? How did he know that they were here and eat at the entrance of the village? The village is so small. Of course, I know what's going on. Didn't you ask about me during the day? Lin Dongfang smiled and said, You're here to see me, right? See you. Patriarch Netherworld was slightly stunned and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that this old thing thought that the three of them were here to see him. No wonder he was so calm. He was almost scared to death. Thinking of this, Patriarch Netherworld was extremely angry. He immediately shouted, Old thing, we're not here to see you. We're here to take your life. Not here to see me? I think the three of you are sick. Lin Dongfang didn't seem to hear old ancestor Yellow Spring's last threat. Instead, he said to himself, Humph, you're the sick one. Patriarch Eerie Woods pointed at Lin Dongfang and said, Old man, I might as well let you die knowing. Do you know? Your grandson has stirred up trouble outside. Big trouble. He killed several experts from our Blood Cloak Netherworld sect. I'm here for revenge. If you die, that grandson of yours will be heartbroken and continue to come here to die. It seems like you guys are really sick. If you weren't sick, why would you break the rules and come to the secular world to kill people? Lin Dongfang regretfully shook his head and said, I think you guys are hopeless. Even a miracle doctor like me can't save him. It seemed that I can only send you to your deaths. Nonsense. Ancestor Bloodclothed was also very angry, but he just said 3 words. The 4th word came to an abrupt halt, as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat, because when Ancestor Bloodcloak said this, Lin Dongfang was just about to turn around. Under the moonlight, Patriarch Bloodclothed looked as if he had seen a ghost. He was so scared that he almost fell to the ground and peed his pants. As of this moment, his mind was completely blank. How could he ever have imagined that the person sitting in front of him would be the same person he had met all those years ago? Previously, Ancestor Blood Cloak had a bad premonition, but he was also afraid that this operation would be discovered by the Vajra Fiend duo. However, he never thought that he would encounter the Vajra Fiend duo on this trip. At this moment, the rumors that the Vajra Fiend duo had fallen became a fleeting cloud. Ancestor Blood Cloak trembled all over as he looked at the person in front of him. He was so nervous that he could not speak. Of course, Patriarch Netherworld and Patriarch Sinister Forest were also so scared that they stood rooted to the ground like wooden chickens. Quick! Run! Patriarch Netherworld's reaction was faster. When he saw Lin Dongfang's expression, he knew that things were not good. If he stayed here, he was afraid that he would die here tonight. After saying that, Patriarch Netherworld turned around and was about to leave. However, he heard Lin Dongfang's indifferent voice. Run? Do you think you can run? Although the words were spoken calmly, it made Patriarch Yellow Spring, who was about to flee, come to an abrupt halt. He stopped awkwardly on the spot. We're not running. Why would we run? If you're not running, why did you turn around? Lin Dongfang asked calmly. I was just performing a turn. Patriarch Netherworld was so scared that he did not know what to say. He was a dignified, great perfection expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. Now, in front of Lin Dongfang, he was so scared that he did not even dare to speak for fear of saying the wrong thing. On the other hand, Ancestor Bloodcloak and Patriarch Sinister Forest were not much better. The medical patriarch's face had already turned pale, and Patriarch Sinister Forest was even more unbearable. His whole body was trembling as if he had been electrocuted and was dancing disco. Are you performing a break dance for me? Turning around and getting electrocuted? Lin Dongfang looked at the 3 people in front of him and asked calmly. Yes, that's right, we specially choreographed a dance. Patriarch Sinister Forest was more quick-witted. When he heard Lin Dongfang's question, he took advantage of the situation and went straight to the point. Back then, we admired the heroic appearance of the Killer Vajra duo. We could not forget them for a long time. After so many years, when we have time, we choreographed a dance for the Killer Vajra duo that we admire the most. Lin Dongfang looked at Patriarch Sinister Forest with a faint smile. He did not expose him. He just nodded and asked calmly, "My Lin Yi, did he offend you?" "No, he did not. How could he have offended us?" Patriarch Sinister Forest said, "So young hero Lin Yi is old Mr. Lin's grandson. I was wondering why young hero Lin was so powerful. At such a young age, he was already a heaven-rank expert and could even fight against an opponent of a higher rank. When I thought that he was old Mr. Lin's grandson, it was not surprising. Oh, his master is the other one of the Killer Vajra duo," Lin Dongfang said. "Ah." Patriarch Sinister Forest immediately broke out in a cold sweat. One of the Killer Vajra duo was definitely in existence that could not be offended, since Lin Yi was that person's disciple and old Mr. Lin's grandson. If he really went to deal with Lin Yi, then the Bloodcloth Underworld sect would probably no longer exist, right? Thinking of this possibility, Patriarch Sinister Forest felt a lingering fear. Haha, indeed, a great teacher produces a great disciple. Like I said, we have always been optimistic about young hero Lin. Don't talk about useless things with me. Tell me what happened exactly. Lin Dongfang waved his hand and interrupted Patriarch Sinister Forest's words. Tell me everything about you and Lin Yi. Chapter 3154. Let me explain. Old Ancestor Yellow, Spring, smiled bitterly. He knew that today was either a blessing or a curse. Even if it was a curse, he would not be able to avoid it. Hence, he simply listened to whatever Lin Dongfang said. He nodded and said, "Old Mr. Lin, in fact, the matter is like this. The grudge between young hero Lin and the Bloodcloth Underworld sect started with a contract to hire assassins." As he spoke, old Ancestor Yellow Spring told Lin Dongfang about the grudge between the Bloodcloth Underworld sect and Lin Yi. He did not dare to hide anything or add fuel to the fire. He even told Lin Dongfang about their plan and purpose this time. That was because these things could not be hidden from Lin Dongfang. Instead of being stubborn and denying, it was better to tell the truth and fight for leniency. Oh, in other words, if the person sitting here was not me, he would have been killed by you today, right? Lin Dongfang asked after listening. This. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring nodded helplessly. You can say that, haha, well, at least you're honest. Lin Dongfang didn't blame him, nor did he get angry. He just nodded calmly. The world of practitioners is a place where the strong prey on the weak. I understand what you're saying. So, this matter between you and Lin Yi ends here. I don't want you to target Lin Yi in the future. Of course not. How can we target young hero Lin Yi again? Unless we don't want to live anymore. Old Ancestor Bloodcloth spread his hands and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Good. Let's just forget about this matter. Lin Dongfang's words made old Ancestor Yellow Spring and the other two heave a sigh of relief. However, Lin Dongfang's next words made them nervous again. However, shouldn't you give me an explanation for coming to the secular world to kill people without permission? After listening to Lin Dongfang's words, the three of them could not help but look at each other helplessly. They were wondering how Lin Dongfang could let this matter go so easily. Now, it seemed that this was Lin Dongfang's backup plan. Old Mr. Lin, how do you want to punish us? Bloodcloak Ancestor sighed and said, as long as you don't exterminate our Bloodcloak Underworld sect. What are your conditions? What are your punishments? Just tell me. It was not that Bloodcloak Ancestor was belittling himself, but Lin Dongfang really had the ability to destroy the Bloodcloak Underworld sect. It was just that they did not know that Lin Dongfang needed the spring water. He couldn't leave the West Star mountain village for too long, so he still thought of Lin Dongfang as the Vudra double demons of the past. In the beginning, Mr. Yang Ming told you that if you step into the secular world, he will destroy your blood-cloth underworld sect. You haven't forgotten this sentence, right? Asked Lin Dongfang. I know. Patriarch blood-clothed bit the bullet and replied, All right. Since there isn't, then I hope that you will keep your promise, Lin Dongfang said as he slowly stood up. Patriarch blood-clad, Patriarch Yellow Spring, and Patriarch Eerie Woods broke out in a cold sweat. Hearing Lin Dongfang's words, he almost fell to the ground. Were they going to be exterminated? Were they really going to be exterminated? They regretted it. They really regretted it. If they hadn't been impulsive and came to deal with old man Lin, then they wouldn't have caused the current situation. Sigh. Why did they have to become enemies with Lin Yi in the first place? It wasn't that the blood-cloth underworld sect didn't have any casualties. When they assassinated the masters of other ancient sects, there were also casualties. Of course, whether it was the blood-cloth underworld sect's people who died or were assassinated, there wouldn't be any grudges between them. If the blood-cloth underworld sect's assassins died, it could only be said that their skills weren't good enough. If you went to kill others and others killed you, then you only have yourself to blame. If other masters were killed by the blood-cloth underworld sect, then don't blame the blood-cloth underworld sect. After all, the other party was paid to do it, and he was just an executor, not the mastermind behind the scenes. If you want revenge, go find the mastermind. Now the blood-cloth underworld sect wanted to kill Lin Yi because they thought that Lin Yi was a loose cultivator, a soft persimmon that they could take revenge on at will. But who would have thought that not only was Lin Yi not a soft persimmon, but he also had a strong background? Thinking of this, the three of them had the urge to cry. With such a strong background, who would dare to touch you if you announced it to the outside world? Even in the entire ancient sect, you are an existence that can do whatever you want, right? But you insisted on hiding it. Now, our blood-cloth underworld sect has kicked an iron plate. It's simply a trap. That old Mr. Lin, I heard that young Hero Lin likes to take in underlings and is currently recruiting some underlings in the ancient era. What do you think about our blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect joining young Hero Lin? Patriarch Eerie Woods suddenly had an idea and thought of a good way to protect the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect. According to the investigation of the blood-cloth underworld sect's intelligence team, some of the underlings around Lin Yi were his former enemies. However, Lin Yi was a very tolerant person. If these enemies didn't make any big mistakes, and they sincerely joined him, then Lin Yi could still accept them. Therefore, ancestor Yin Sen made this request. His purpose was to hope that Lin Dongfang would let them go. In this way, they would be Lin Yi's underlings. They were all on the same side. How could he let his own people kill his own people? Recruiting underlings. Your current level is too high. He can't recruit you yet. Lin Dongfang's words made the hearts of the blood-cloth ancestor and the other too cold at the same time. However, Lin Dongfang's next sentence did make them feel relieved. However, seeing that your blood-cloth underworld sect still has some use, I can reluctantly accept you on behalf of little E. The three of them were overjoyed after hearing this. They looked at each other and cupped their fists at Lin Dongfang at the same time. Bloodcloth underworld sect, bloodcloth underworld, and Yin Sun greet old master. I hope you are sincere. Otherwise, I will personally destroy you, Lin Dongfang said lightly. Of course. He was just scaring these people in front of him. He couldn't really leave the West Star mountain village. We are definitely sincere. The bloodcloth ancestor and the other two were shocked and quickly responded. In fact, they were indeed sincere. After all, Lin Dongfang's prestige back then had been deeply rooted in their bones. They didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts. Back then, The Vajra dual fiends could easily destroy a great perfection expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage. Now, after so many years, Lin Dongfang's strength had reached a terrifying level. Therefore, the blood-cloth ancestor and the others didn't dare to lie at all. That's good. Lin Dongfang nodded. Leave your contact information and then go back. Chapter 3155. Yes. Ancestor Eerie Forest quickly gave a contact card to Lin Dongfang and said respectfully, "Old Master, this is my contact method. As long as you can contact me, you can find Ancestor Blood Shirt and Ancestor Netherworld." Lin Dongfang took the contact card, glanced at it, and then put it on the table. He said, "Okay, you can go." "Okay, but, Old Master, if I may ask, you are so powerful, and Master Lin Yi is your grandson, the disciple of Mr. Yang. But why didn't he say it out? As long as a little news is leaked, who in the cultivation world won't give face?" Ancestor Netherworld asked with some confusion. "As far as I know, Master has a lot of enemies. Although every time there was a scare without danger, this is a bit too. Ha, Yomi, do you want to ask me why I let Lily be outside and not interfere?" Lin Dongfang knew that the blood-clothed underworld sect would have this question sooner or later. If he didn't solve this question well, they wouldn't think much at the time, but they would definitely have doubts later. If they guessed the truth or something similar, it wouldn't be what Lin Dongfang wanted to see. Therefore, Lin Dongfang had already thought of an excuse. "Yes, old Master is outside. Let's not talk about the threat from our blood shirt underworld sect. Even the ancient Dongfang family and the everyday sect are enough for Master to deal with. Why didn't you intervene?" Netherworld nodded and asked in confusion, "Do you think that if I intervene in everything, Little Yi's growth can still be so fast?" What Lin Dongfang said was a mixture of truth and lies. 30% true and 70% false. After all, he had discussed with Yang Ming, Mr. Yang, and Mo Kong before that Lin Yi wanted to grow. He couldn't have too many external forces to rely on. In the beginning, Mo Kong also did a divination for Lin Yi. Only if Lin Yi was allowed to develop on his own would he get more opportunities. It was just that this way. Lin Yi would encounter many unpredictable dangers, but in the end, it would be more daunting than dangerous. Man-made external factors could only appear 3 times a year. This way, it would not interfere with Lin Yi's normal life trajectory. Once it happened more than 3 times, Lin Yi's life trajectory might deviate. This was also the reason why Mo Kong had set the rule that he could only take action 3 times a year. Of course, this helps. It was only limited to those of the older generation, Gooden and the other underlings of Lin Yi. They were Lin Yi's own circle of friends and forces, which were cultivated by Lin Yi himself. It had nothing to do with external forces. Only by allowing Lin Yi to develop freely would he be able to obtain even more unexpected opportunities. As for these opportunities, they were the most important conditions to break the trap from back then. As for letting Lin Yi undergo even more cruel tests, it was only a minor detail. The most important reason was for the group of people who left back then. Now it seemed that Lin Yi's development was just as Mo Kong had calculated. Almost all the inheritors had become Lin Yi's people. These people would be a powerful help for Lin Yi to break the trap. Without the help of these people, Lin Yi would never be able to reach that level of cultivation and network. However, these things couldn't be told to the people of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. So Lin Dongfang avoided the question and threw a rhetorical question. "This shouldn't be." After a slight pause, old ancestor Netherworld figured out the key to this. How could a flower growing in a greenhouse reach its current height? If everything was settled by the people behind the scenes, Lin Yi would probably have no pressure now. How would he have the motivation to level up? How could he step into the heaven stage from the yellow stage in less than a year? Thinking of this, old ancestor Netherworld couldn't help but admire Lin Dongfang and Yang Ming's courage. How much courage did it take to throw a junior into the secular world and let him develop freely? No wonder the master can grow so fast. Blood Cloak Ancestor also nodded in agreement. Of course, if there is a situation that we can't solve, we will take action. Lin Dongfang's next sentence made Blood Cloak Ancestor and the other two break out in a cold sweat. A situation that really can't be solved? Does that mean that the three of us will kill Lin Yi? Thinking of this, the three of them were really shocked and scared. If they really went to deal with Lin Yi, then the three of them would probably be corpses now, right? Lin Dongfang was still better. The one surnamed Yang was a madman. If he took action, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to plead for mercy and become an underling. He would probably die directly. Haha. In the future, with us three underlings here, the old master doesn't have to take action personally. In this cultivation world, there are few things that the three of us can't solve together. Blood Cloak Ancestor quickly patted his chest and promised. Yeah, the old master can live in seclusion here with peace of mind. The three of us are still enough to run errands. Old Ancestor Netherworld also nodded quickly. After I go back, I will completely reorganize the intelligence department and pay attention to the news of the young master. Elder Ghastly Forest also said quickly. Lin Dongfang pondered for a long time. He finally nodded at the proposal of the three and said, Okay, but don't interfere with little Yi's growth too much. You can pay attention, but don't take action, unless there is a danger that you have to take action as a last resort. However, you must inform me immediately after the matter. Of course, it was possible to inform in advance, but it would delay things. Sometimes the danger was fleeting. If you delayed some time to inform, the danger might have already happened. Therefore, Lin Dongfang gave the three the authority to act first and report later. Of course, Lin Dongfang didn't reject the proposal of the three. As Lin, he stepped into a higher level. Having these three people to help him, keep an eye on him would make Lin Dongfang less worried. After all, although he had a lot of channels, one more person was always one more strength. Thank you for your trust, old master. The three of them didn't feel that there was anything wrong with being able to help Lin Dongfang. Back then, Ancestor Mad Leopard of the Everyday and Everyday Sect was proud to be Lin Dongfang's underling. He swaggered around everywhere he went. In fact, they were very envious of him. Chapter 3156. However, they were still very happy that Lin Dongfang gave them the right to act first and report later. At the very least, it showed that Lin Dongfang treated them as his own people instead of trying to deceive them. Of course, from their point of view, there was no need for Lin Dongfang to feign civility with them. If Lin Dongfang wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake for him to do so. It was already an honor for him to entrust them with this task. Lin Dongfang glanced at the ancestor of Netherworld and warned, I hope you will keep my presence a secret. Before little E grows up, I don't want news of me to spread. He doesn't know what happened to me in the past. Patriarch Yellow Spring nodded and asked carefully, Don't worry, old master. We won't say anything. We won't do anything unless it's absolutely necessary. On the surface, will we still maintain our relationship with Little Master? There's no need for that. Find a reason to resolve the grudge between you two first, so that he won't worry. Old Man Lin also hoped to reduce the pressure on Lin Yi a little. After all, Lin Yi was under too much pressure now. Old Man Lin was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to hold on. If it was someone with poor mental fortitude, they would have gone crazy. Okay, we know what to do, the ancestor of Netherworld quickly responded. All right, you guys go. If there's anything, you can contact me. Old Man Lin gave his phone number to the ancestor of Netherworld. I don't have a business card. You can write it down. I've memorized it. The ancestor of Gloomy Woods had already taken out his notebook and wrote down Lin Dongfang's phone number. He was a little excited. This was a heavenly pathmaster. In the future, the Bloodcloak Netherworld sect wouldn't be a sect without a backer. Their backer would be a heavenly pathmaster. This was an existence even more powerful than the Five Elements sect. If Lin Dongfang and Yang Ming were to go together, the Five Elements sect and the everyday sect would be finished. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring, Ancestor Bloodcloak, and Ancestor Eerie Forest left without a sound. Old Man Lin couldn't help but smile bitterly as he watched them leave. Today's matter could be considered both good and bad. He could not stay away from West Star Mountain Village for a long time. This was a fatal weakness. Fortunately, only the Bloodcloak Underworld sect knew that he was here. Otherwise, the more sects that knew, the more likely Lin Dongfang's matter would be exposed. Being exposed. This wasn't a good thing. If everyone speculated that Lin Yi couldn't leave the West Star Mountain Village, then those sects that had suffered losses in the past would vent their anger on Lin Yi. Unless Lin Yi also returned to the West Star Mountain Village to avoid trouble, he would probably have enemies all over the world. Therefore, Lin Dongfang had also considered this aspect. That was why he strictly ordered the Blood-Clothed Yellow Spring sect to keep it a secret. Old Ancestor Netherworld, Old Ancestor Shui, and Old Ancestor Eerie Forest left the West Star Mountain Village. The three of them sat on the grass by the roadside and breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, the sky gradually brightened. The three of them panted heavily with lingering fear in their hearts. Old Ancestor Shui, it seems that your premonition and guess were right. Who would have thought that the old master would come here to live in seclusion? Old Ancestor Netherworld smiled bitterly and said while wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, "Sigh, I said it casually at that time. What's more surprising is that Lin Yi is the old master's grandson and Mr. Yang's disciple. Aren't we courting death by trying to kill Lin Yi?" Old Ancestor Shui sighed and said helplessly, "By the way, how can we resolve the grudge with Master Lin Yi?" Eerie Forest Ancestor suddenly thought of an important point. Lin Dongfang wanted them to find an excuse to resolve the grudge. But how could they resolve it? Why don't we go to East Ocean City and talk to Master Lin Yi? Old Ancestor Netherworld suggested. How should we say it? Will Master Lin Yi suspect our purpose? Old Ancestor Shui frowned and said, "Patriarchs, I have a good idea." Eerie Forest Ancestor rolled his eyes and said, "We can tell Lin Yi that the person who hired us back then was Zhao Qibing. Everything was caused by Zhao Qibing. We want to take revenge on Zhao Qibing, but Zhao Qibing is a disciple of the Dark Palace now, so it's not appropriate for us to do so. If we can ask Master Lin Yi to talk to Palace Master Chu Mengyao of the Dark Palace and ask her to teach Zhao Qibing a lesson, that would be great." "Oh, that's a good idea, but can Master Lin Yi help us?" Old Ancestor Netherworld Ancestor nodded and asked, "I think it's 80%. After all, we can promise him something. For example, if he needs Old Ancestor Shui's help, we can help him." Eerie Forest Ancestor said, "This way, not only will we have a reason to help Master Lin Yi, but he won't be suspicious." Eerie Forest, I realize that you're quite smart. Old Ancestor Netherworld Ancestor heard and immediately felt that Eerie Forest Ancestor's idea was very good. He nodded and said, "Very good. This way, we also have a reason to help Lin Yi." Eerie Forest Ancestor breathed a sigh of relief. "You flatter me, Old Ancestor Netherworld Ancestor. This can be considered as me making up for my mistake. No, not only did you not make a mistake, but you also made a great contribution. If it wasn't for the fact that we were too slow in our investigation and delayed our attack on Master Lin, once we really went to kill Lin Yi, whether the old master arrived or not, or whether Master Lin Yi was dead or not, we would die for sure." Old Ancestor Netherworld Ancestor waved his hand and said, "This is a great contribution." That's right, Eerie Forest, you've saved us this time. From now on, you're no longer a servant. You're the third brother of Shui Yi, and you've officially become a high-level member of Shui Yi's Yellow Spring sect. Old ancestor Shui Yi nodded and said, "Thank you for your guidance, old ancestor. In my heart, you two will always be my masters." Old ancestor Shui Yi said gratefully, "No, our current master is Lin Yi. Don't make a mistake and let the old master misunderstand. It won't be good." Old ancestor Netherworld ancestor said, "From now on, we'll all be master subordinates, so it's the same." "Yes," Eerie Forest ancestor quickly replied. After the three of them agreed, they set off for East Ocean City. Of course, they were afraid that a long delay would cause trouble. After all, Lin Dongfang's position in their hearts was like a death sentence. Chapter 3157. They were afraid that they could not get Lin Yi's forgiveness. Then they would be in an awkward situation. At that time, it was hard to say whether Lin Dongfang would still recognize them as his little brothers. Therefore, they rang the doorbell of Lin Yi's villa with an extremely perturbed mood. With guests coming to the door, Lin Yi stopped circulating the art of dragon mastery, got up, left the room, and walked to the door of the villa's courtyard. However, when Lin Yi walked to the door and saw the three people outside the villa, his eyes suddenly froze. In his heart, there were raging waves. Among the three people outside the door, there were two experts with great perfection strength at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage, and one expert with great perfection strength at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage. What kind of combination was this? In the ancient times, they were existences that could run amok. How could they appear at the door of his house? What was the purpose of these people? "Excuse me, who are you looking for?" Lin Yi asked calmly. Since these three people did not barge in, but politely rang the doorbell, although Lin Yi was secretly on guard, he still asked very politely on the surface, "Excuse me, is this the residence of Lin Yi, young hero Lin?" Blood Robe Ancestor asked carefully. This question made Lin Yi's eyelids twitch involuntarily. Young hero Lin? These were experts with great perfection strength at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage, and they called him young hero Lin? Was there something wrong with them? At this moment, Lin Yi was really stunned. Where did these three come from? Seeing Lin Yi's stunned expression, Ancestor Yellow Spring could not help but glare at Blood Robe Ancestor. He naturally understood that Blood Robe Ancestor was too infuriating, which made Lin Yi suspicious. He coughed, pointed at Lin Yi, and asked sternly, "Boy, you are Lin Yi, right?" "That's me." This time, Lin Yi was even more puzzled. What were these three people doing here? Why was one so polite and the other so arrogant? Old Ancestor Yellow Spring finished speaking. Glancing at Ancestor Eeriewoods, Ancestor Eeriewoods naturally knew that he, the mediator, had appeared. He coughed twice and said to Lin Yi, right? "These two are the ancestors of our blood-clothed underworld sect. One has a good temper, and the other has a bad temper. Blood-clothed netherworld sect?" Lin Yi asked. His expression immediately changed as he looked at the three people in front of him in astonishment. As for having a good temper and having a bad temper, he had experienced it before. These three were his greatest enemies. They should have started fighting the moment they arrived. Why were they standing here and talking so much with him? Could it be that the temperament of experts was a little strange? Not bad. Old Ancestor Eeriewoods nodded and said, "We, the blood-clothed underworld sect, may have had some misunderstandings with Mr. Lin Yi. We are here today to resolve this misunderstanding." Resolve the misunderstanding? Lin Yi couldn't figure it out. What were these three people trying to do? If it wasn't for Lin Yi's golden finger that could see the strength of these three people, he would have thought that these three people were big liars. However, which peak, late stage, heaven stage, great perfection expert would have the time to pretend to be a liar? and there were two of them at the same time. Even the remaining peak, late-stage, heaven-stage expert wouldn't be in the mood to pretend to be a liar, right? Not bad. Mr. Lin, aren't you going to invite us in? Ancestor Eariewood's tone was neither good nor bad. He just said, indifferently, "All right, please come in." Lin took a deep breath. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a curse. If it was a curse, it couldn't be avoided. With the strength of these three people, Lin couldn't run away even if he wanted to. He wasn't their match even if he wanted to resist, so Lin simply wanted to see what they were going to do. Now it seemed that although these three people's attitude wasn't very good, they didn't do anything excessive. So Lin also calmed down. Seeing that Lin was still so calm after knowing their identity, Ancestor Yellow Spring couldn't help but admire him. As expected of the descendant of the Killer Vidra duo, his mentality was so strong. How would he know that Lin had the attitude that it was a blessing, not a curse? Ancestor Yellow Spring, Ancestor Bloodcloak, and Ancestor Eerie Woods walked into Lin Yi's villa. At this time, Yushu hadn't returned from school yet. Su Sherhan and Cheng Yi were practicing singing upstairs and rarely went downstairs during the day. So, only Lin and Bloodcloak were left in the living room. "Mr. Lin, before, there was some misunderstanding between us. You killed a few of our people, right?" Ancestor Eerie Woods sat down and asked. Both Ancestor Yellow Spring and Ancestor Bloodcloak weren't very good at pretending, and Ancestor Eerie Woods had some ability, so among the three of them he spoke on behalf of the others. "Yes, but it was your people who wanted to kill me first, so I was forced to fight back." Lin couldn't figure out the purpose of these three people here, so he didn't hide it and told the truth. After all, these things could be investigated even if he didn't say it, so it was better to tell the truth. "Oh, we know we have no hatred with Mr. Lin. The reason why we assassinated Mr. Lin was because we received a mission, so we came to assassinate Mr. Lin." Ancestor Eerie Woods said, "As the saying goes, we take people's money to eliminate disasters. This is our original purpose." "I understand, and I don't blame you." Lin nodded. He had also trained in the secular world's assassin group, so he naturally understood the rules of the assassin world. In this matter, there was no right or wrong, so he naturally couldn't blame the assassins. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Whoever wants to kill me, I will settle the score with them. "That's right." Ancestor Eerie Woods slapped his thigh and said, "Mr. Lin is really a smart person. It's so easy to talk to Mr. Lin. Mr. Lin understood us at once." "You came here just to say this?" Lin looked at Ancestor Eerie Woods strangely. "Of course not. We have already sent out Heaven Stage experts, but they are no match for Mr. Lin, so we have decided to give up this plan." Ancestor Eerie Woods said, "Although we were wrong in the first place to assassinate Mr. Lin, Mr. Lin also killed many of our people. How about we just let this matter go?" "Just let it go?" Lin couldn't believe his ears. There was such a good thing. The assassin group couldn't kill people, and they still wanted to make peace. Moreover, he didn't have the confidence to escape from any of these three. How could they just let it go? "Yes, I don't know what Mr. Lin thinks." Ancestor Eerie Woods nodded and asked, Of course I don't have any opinion, but are you really sincere?" Lin felt that this matter was a little strange, no matter how he looked at it. Chapter 3158. Of course. In fact, we can see that Mr. Lin has great potential, so we don't want to be enemies with Mr. Lin. Eerie Woods' ancestor nodded. "Of course, you might have guessed that since we are the ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect, then we should be at least at the peak late-stage heaven rank, right?" "That's right." Lin nodded. This was what puzzled him the most. It should be easy for these three to kill him, so why did they talk so much? In fact, the ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect won't easily take action. This is the rule. The employer gives us a limited amount of money, and we can only send a mid-stage, heaven-rank expert at most. We can't trouble the ancestors with this amount of money. Although killing you might be as easy as lifting a finger, we won't do it. Because every profession has its rules, and we can't break them, Ancestor Erie Woods explained. On the contrary, our employer gave us false information, causing our blood-clothed yellow spring gate to suffer heavy losses. We want to take revenge on our employer. We seriously suspect that our employer is trying to trick us on purpose. Many of these rules were made up by Erie Woods' ancestor to gain Lin Yi's trust. Of course, what he said was reasonable, so Lin Yi really believed them. Otherwise, Lin Yi really couldn't figure out why these three were here. Who is your employer? Who hired you to kill me? This was the question that Lin Yi wanted to know the most. This employer is an old acquaintance of yours, Erie Woods' ancestor said. Actually, we think that you are a young expert with unlimited potential, so we want to make friends with you. That's not important. Our blood-clothed underworld sect also has young talents. This time, we personally came here to ask for your help. Teach this employer a lesson, or else we won't be able to swallow this anger. Why? This employer has a great background. Even you guys don't dare to deal with him? Lin Yi was stunned. That's not it. Erie Woods' ancestor waved his hand. We are an assassin organization after all. It's not good for our reputation to deal with the employer. Moreover, we only suspect that the employer is cheating us. We don't have any evidence, so it's not good for us to act. Besides, he's currently a disciple of an ancient sect. It's not good for us to attack an ancient sect's disciple. A disciple of an ancient sect? Lin Yi immediately didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Do you think that the ancient sect that you all fear? Do you think I have a way to deal with it? Of course there is. That's why we're here. Otherwise, do you think you have enough face to make the two of us patriarchs act like this? Together with me, the housekeeper, to look for you? Ancestor Erie Woods asked. Oh, who is your employer? Lin Yi couldn't help but have some doubts. Zhao Qibing, Yin Sen said. He's currently a disciple of the Dark Palace. If we were to deal with a disciple of the Dark Palace, it would cause a conflict between the ancient sections. Mr. Lin, he doesn't have to worry about that. As far as I know, the current master of the Dark Palace, Meng Yao, is Mr. Lin Yi's woman, right? Lin, he was just about to say that Meng Yao wasn't his woman, just a good friend, but suddenly remembered Yao Yao's confession before she left. She should be his woman now, so Lin Yi nodded. So it's Zhao Qibing. The question that had been bothering Lin Yi for a long time was finally solved. He was wondering how he managed to provoke the Blood Cloak underworld sect. It turned out that they weren't looking for trouble on purpose, but were asked to do so by someone else. With this, Lin Yi's hatred towards the Blood Cloak underworld sect faded away. The assassin organization worked for money, and the culprit was Zhao Qibing. What's in it for me to do this? Lin Yi thought about it and asked back, although he knew that he was asking a tiger for its skin. Since Elder Sinister Forest had explained so much before, it all boiled down to one thing. They wouldn't touch Lin Yi now. That was why Lin Yi had the guts to ask. Punish him and avenge our blood-clad Yellow Spring sect. Consider it as giving us face. Our blood-clad Yellow Spring sect owes you a favor, and we will definitely return it. Owe me a favor. Lin Yi thought about it. This was a business that could only be profitable. Meng Yao would definitely punish Zhao Qibing without saying anything, so it meant that the Blood Cloak underworld sect owed him a favor. This was a good thing, and so Lin Yi nodded. All right, if that's the case, it's a deal. Straightforward. The Yellow Spring ancestor nodded as well. I like straightforward people the most. All right, this matter is settled. The three of us won't disturb you any longer. We'll be leaving now. Leaving just like that. Lin, he was taken aback. He didn't expect the three of them to really come here for this matter. They were leaving right after. That's right. The purpose of our trip is to ask Mr. Lin Yi to help us punish Zhao Qibing. We've been established for so long, and we've never been played like this by our employer. It's a scam, the Yin Sun ancestor said angrily. All right, I'll tell Meng Yao. Lin Yi nodded. Take care. All right, you don't have to send us off. We'll be leaving now. The Yin Sun ancestor said and followed the Yellow Spring ancestor and Blood Cloak ancestor out of Lin Yi's villa. They really didn't stop and left immediately. Looking at their backs, Lin Yi frowned. What happened today was really a little strange. The Yin Sun ancestors' words seemed very reasonable, but Lin Yi felt that with their status, there was no need for them to do this to him. Why did they come to visit him personally? Was it really because of Zhao Qibing? Thinking about it, if they wanted to deal with Zhao Qibing, they could just tell the Palace of Darkness and owe them a favor. There was no need for them to come here and waste their time, right? However, if it was because the current master of the Palace of Darkness was Meng Yao, and they tried to assassinate him before, so they were afraid that Meng Yao wouldn't give them face. This was also possible, so they came to him to be the middleman. This was the only possibility that Lin Yi could think of. However, since the three of them weren't hostile, Lin Yi was relieved. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi's jade didn't give any warning. This proved that these three really didn't want to kill him. Perhaps they really didn't want to deal with him. Chapter 3159. After leaving Lin Yi's villa, the Netherworld ancestor, the blood-clothed ancestor, and the Yin Sun ancestor did not rush to leave Donghai City and return to the blood-clothed underworld sect. Instead, they planned to stay here for a while and have a comprehensive understanding of Lin Yi. In other words, they had now become Lin Yi's underlings. How could they not know their master? At the very least, they had to know who Lin Yi's current enemies were, and who were the friendly sects and other underlings. For those enemies, the blood-clothed underworld sect would be suppressed to death if there was a chance. For the friendly sects and underlings, they must be clear, lest the flood rushed against the Dragon King Temple, and the family did not recognize the family, so they decided to stay and investigate more. Insen, you let the people of the intelligence team quickly enter Donghai City and start investigating the master's affairs. We must know ourselves and the enemy, so as to help the master and live up to the old master's trust, said the Netherworld ancestor. Okay, I know, I will call now. The Yin Sun ancestor nodded and went to call the people of the intelligence team to come over. Dongfang family, Dongfang Jinxing, today received an important piece of good news. That is, the pure Yin Heavenly Master of the Everyday and Everyday sect came out, and the pure Yang Heavenly Master had already given a reply that he could deal with Lin Yi together with Dongfang family's Dongfang Yinxing. Therefore, Dongfang Jinxing rushed to the door of Dongfang Badeo's room, knocked on the door, and said, "Father, second brother, there is great news." "Jinxing, come in." Dongfang Badeo said, "What's so exciting?" "Father, the pure Yin Heavenly Master of the Everyday and Everyday sect has come out. Just now, their pure Yang Heavenly Master has contacted me and can join us to kill Lin Yi." Dongfang Jinxing said excitedly, "This time Lin Yi will die." "Oh, the Everyday and Everyday sect can make a move?" Dongfang Badeo pondered for a moment and said, "Let's cooperate with them this time. When I and Yinxing become masters of the great perfection one day, we can make the Everyday and Everyday sect pay some price. Father, you agree for me to help?" Dongfang Yinxing was also very excited. He had been prepared to kill Lin Yi before, but because he was afraid of Lin Yi's ability to jump ranks and kill enemies, he didn't dare to go alone. This time, he had the pure Yin Heavenly Venerable, two peak late stage heaven rank powerhouses. Even if Lin Yi had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to kill Lin Yi. This time he was dead for sure. Yes, with pure Yin Heavenly Venerate accompanying you, I can naturally rest assured that you can go. Otherwise, that brat Lin Yi is really too strange. He can jump realms and instantly kill experts, much stronger than him. This really makes one have no choice but to be on guard. Dongfang Badeo said, if it weren't for the everyday and everyday sect, I would definitely let you put down this hatred for the time being. After all, we have lost a lot of our backbone. If something happens to you, our Dongfang family will really decline. At that time, even more ancient aristocratic families and sects will surpass us. The losses outweigh the gains. Is that brat Lin Yi so powerful? Dongfang Yinqing frowned, apparently disapproving. Don't underestimate the enemy. Dongfang Badeo waved his hand and said that Lin Yi, he can live until now and hasn't been killed by the enemy. He still has his own uniqueness. We must not underestimate the enemy too much, so as not to overturn the boat in the gutter. Yes, Dongfang Yinqing quickly responded, but in his heart, he still underestimated the enemy a little. He felt that Lin Yi was just a small early-stage heaven rank master, and it was impossible to be as powerful as him. Remember, if Lin Yi is really strong and things can't be done, then put down the hatred and quickly escape back. Don't show off. Dongfang Badeo exhorted. I know, father. I will be careful. Although Dongfang Jingxing said so, his words were full of perfunctory, which made Dongfang Badeo frown slightly. His son was not as steady as Dongfang Jingxing. Although his strength was there, he was still very impulsive in doing things. Dongfang Jingxing was very obedient, which was why Dongfang Badeo was relieved to let him manage the Dongfang family. However, thinking about it, Lin Yi was just an early-stage heaven rank master. Even if he was powerful and could fight against the enemy, it was impossible to be the opponent of the peak late-stage heaven rank master, right? If that was the case, Lin Yi would have been able to do whatever he wanted in the ancient level. Moreover, when he was in the Cultivator Trading Association, Lin Yi should have killed Dongfang hard instead of letting him escape. It seemed that Lin Yi's strength was still limited. This made Dongfang Badeo's originally nervous mood slightly relaxed. When do we act? Dongfang Badeo asked. The everyday and everyday sect is waiting for our reply. As long as we nod, they will immediately send someone to meet us. Dongfang Jingxing said, well, you tell him that now our Dongfang family is also ready. Let Dongfang Yinqing go to meet with pure Yin Tianzuan, and then go together to kill Lin. When Dongfang Badeo said this, he turned to look at Dongfang Yinqing. Yinqing, you remember, you must act with pure Yin Tianzuan. Don't be stupid enough to rush to the front as a test. I understand this. Dongfang Yinqing's words were heard. He was not stupid. Since it was an alliance between the two families, he naturally wanted pure Yin Tianzuan to rush to the front. It was best to fight with Lin Yi until both sides suffered, and then kill Lin Yi himself. This was also an indirect way to let the everyday and everyday sect suffer a little and avenge Dongfang Buliu. Dongfang Jingxing came out of Dongfang Badeo's room and went to call Pure Yang Tianzuan. After Pure Yang Tianzuan received the phone call, he told the news to Zhong Pingliang. Master, the Dongfang family has agreed to join forces with us to kill Lin Yi. We still have to kill Lin Yi. Pingliang sighed softly. Actually, after merging with Mad Dragon's memories, killing Lin Yi would be a piece of cake. I'd just send a couple of masters, and they'd be able to take him out. But the reason why I didn't do this is also because I want to give Pao a motivation to improve his cultivation. But now, if Lin Yi is not eliminated, he can't get rid of the demon in his heart. We can only kill Lin Yi first. Master, since you agree, then I will let Pure Yin Junior Brother go to meet with Dongfang Yinqing. Pure Yang, Tianzuan nodded and asked, Yes, but before he leaves, you ask him to come over. I have something to tell him. Zhong Pingliang said. Okay, master, I will go find him. Pure Yang, Tianzuan nodded and went to find Pure Yin Tianzuan. Chapter 3160. He had already tried many times, but he still failed. After all, reaching the peak of the heaven stage was a very difficult hurdle. After crossing it, there was hope of advancing to the heavenly Tao. It was not something that could be comprehended just because one wanted to. Senior brother, how is it? Do you want me to come out of the mountain and kill that kid? Every time Pure Een came out of seclusion, he would stretch his body. After all, he had been cooped up in the house for a long time. He definitely wanted to get some fresh air. At this time there was a mission to kill, so he was very enthusiastic. And Lord Master, who is also your great master uncle, has agreed. But before you go, Lord Master has something to tell you. Come with me. Pure Yang nodded and said, Okay. Pure Een hurriedly followed Pure Yang to Zhong Pingliang's residence. After coming out of seclusion, he already knew that Zhong Pingliang was the resurrected patriarch Mad Dragon. Naturally, he was very respectful to him. The two came to Zhong Pingliang's residence and knocked on the door. Lord Master, Disciple Pure Yang has brought Junior Brother Pure Een here. Okay, come in. Zhong Pingliang said faintly. During this time, Zhong Pingliang had learned how to act cool. Although his character was still like Zhong Pingliang's playboy, he had to act like a superior in the sect. Otherwise, others would find it weird. Disciple Pure Een greets, Great Master Uncle. Pure Een hurriedly said after entering the door. Pure Een, no need to be so polite. Zhong Pingliang waved his hand and said, This time you are going to kill Lin Yi. I have something to remind you of. Great Master Uncle, please speak. Pure Een nodded and looked like he was all ears. It's like this, Lin Yi. I know very well that this kid is the best at hiding his strength. Therefore, the strength he revealed now might not be his true strength. This might not be his full strength. He has a lot of cards up his sleeves. You have to be careful, Zhong Pingliang warned. Uncle Master, I will remember this. Pure Een Empyrean's expression turned solemn. He quickly nodded his head. He believed Pinliang's words without a doubt. After all, Pinliang and Lin Yi used to be classmates and archenemies. Now that he had become the Mad Dragon Patriarch, if he still valued Lin Yi so much, then the Pure Een Empyrean would have to value him even more. All right, as long as you remember. Pinliang nodded in satisfaction. You and Dongfang Yinxing from House Dongfang will fight together. Don't be greedy. He wanted to kill with one strike. Don't give Lin Yi any chance to breathe. After completing the mission, don't stay any longer and rush back immediately. Do you hear me? Yes. Eldest Martial Uncle, I understand. Heavenly Venerable Pure Een replied. All right, go ahead, Pinliang said. The rendezvous between Heavenly Venerable Pure Een and Dongfang Yinxing was at the Shui Shang Business Hotel in Donghai City. Dongfang Yinxing couldn't find any other place and had never been there before. This was where Dongfang Boroi used to live. So Dongfang Yinxing chose this place. First, it was because they were familiar with the place, and second, it was closer to Lin Yi's villa, so they could go there at any time. As for Pure Een Empyrean, he had never been to Donghai City before. He lived wherever Dongfang Yinxing lived. The two arrived in the evening, but coincidentally their car arrived at the same time as the Bloodcloak Underworld Sex Intelligence Team. Bloodcloak Ancestor, Netherworld Ancestor, and Sinister Ancestor were also staying at the Shui Shang Business Hotel. This hotel was the closest to Lin Yi's villa, so it was convenient for them to investigate Lin Yi. Heavenly Venerable Pure Een and Dongfang Yinxing naturally didn't know these members of the Bloodcloak Underworld Sex Intelligence Team. After all, these people were responsible for intelligence work and wouldn't show their faces or let others know their identities. However, it didn't mean that they didn't know Heavenly Venerable Pure Een and Dongfang Yinxing. The Bloodcloak Underworld Sex Intelligence Team recorded all the famous figures in the ancient times, and their faces were silently engraved in the hearts of the intelligence team members. Therefore, when the two of them appeared at the entrance of the hotel, the person in charge of the Bloodcloak Underworld Sex Intelligence Team, Feng Xingyao, noticed them. After waiting for Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing to book their rooms, Feng Xingyao wrote down their room numbers and entered the elevator together. The rooms of Feng Xingyao and the others had been booked by Sinister Ancestor the day before. The reason why he waited with Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing was to listen to their conversation. After entering the elevator, Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing didn't hide anything. After all, they didn't think that there was anyone in the mortal world who could shake them, and outsiders wouldn't be able to understand what they were talking about. Does Lin Yi live nearby? Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin asked. Yes, in a villa not far from here, Dongfang Yinxing said. Should we rest for a while before heading over, or should we go tonight? Let's go tonight. Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin thought about it and said, the earlier we go, the faster we can get things done. We'll leave after that. All right. Dongfang Yinxing nodded. The conversation between these two sounded like they were going to visit a friend. If it wasn't for Feng Xingyao, anyone else wouldn't have paid any attention to it. However, Feng Xingyao's heart trembled. Did these two peak late-stage heaven powerhouses come here to deal with Lin Yi? After all, the intelligence team had already received news that the Dongfang family and the Everyday sect had enmity. Feng Xingyao didn't think that it was a good thing for these two to come looking for Lin Yi at the same time. Moreover, from what they said, they were going to leave quickly after finishing their business. Apart from killing people, what else could be done quickly for these ancient powerhouses? However, Feng Xingyao didn't show it on the surface. He had been collecting intelligence all year round and had long cultivated the ability to not show his emotions. So, at least on the surface, Feng Xingyao was focused on playing with his phone as soon as he got into the elevator. He didn't pay attention to Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing at all. When they reached the floor where Feng Xingyao was, Feng Xingyao didn't pay attention to Heavenly Venerable Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing anymore. Instead, he walked out of the elevator with his two subordinates and walked toward Patriarch Hell and the others without looking back. Feng Xingyao knocked on the door of the room where Patriarch Hell, Patriarch Bloodcloak, and Patriarch Sinister Woods were. Who is it? Patriarch Sinister Woods' voice came from inside. Chapter 3161. Oh, Wind Sage, you're here. Please come in. As he spoke, the door was opened, and Ancestor Eerie Woods welcomed the three people into the room. Wind Sage Bird greets Ancestor Netherworld, Ancestor Bloodcloak, and Ancestor Eerie Woods. After entering the room, the three people quickly bowed. No need to be so polite, Wind Sage Bird. Has Eerie Woods told you the purpose of our visit? Ancestor Netherworld waved his hand and asked. Yes, he has. Wind Sage Bird nodded and quickly said, Ancestor Eerie Woods asked us to investigate Lin Yi, but we saw something strange just now. It's also related to Lin Yi. Call him Master. Lin Yi will be the master of our Bloodcloth Underworld sect in the future. Do you hear me? Ancestor Eerie Woods frowned and scolded. Tell me, what news do you have about Master? Ah, yes. Although Wind Sage Bird was puzzled as to how Lin Yi became the master of the Bloodcloth Underworld sect, he did not dare to ask, seeing that the three ancestors had discussed this matter and tacitly agreed to it. How could he dare to have any objections? Hence, he quickly said, It's like this. I saw the Pure Yin Heavenly Master of the Everyday and Everyday sect and the Dongfang family's Dongfang Yinxing outside the hotel just now. In the elevator, they mentioned Lin. Then Wind Sage Bird repeated what he heard in the elevator to Ancestor Bloodcloak and the other two. Oh, so, according to you, it is very likely that these two people are here to deal with Lin Yi? Bloodcloak Ancestor asked solemnly after listening to him. Theoretically, that should be the case. I was afraid of alerting the enemy, so I didn't dare to ask more. However, The two of them appearing here should be about the same. It should be about the same. Wind Saint Bird analyzed. Why don't I go and find out more? You're too weak. Don't go. Ancestor Blood Cloak waved his hand and said, I'll go and find out myself. In fact, Feng Xingyao's strength was not low. He was a heaven stage, middle stage expert. Of course, he was much weaker than Blood Cloak Ancestor and Yellow Spring Ancestor. Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate were stronger than him, so it would be easy for him to be discovered if he went to spy on them. However, it would be different if Blood Cloak Ancestor went personally. After all, if a perfect perfection heaven rank expert wanted to hide his strength and aura, unless it was someone like Lin Yi who had a golden finger, it would be impossible for someone weaker than him to find out. After saying that, Ancestor Blood-Clothed opened the window and flew out. Because it was on the side of the hotel building, there was no one outside. However, no one saw Ancestor Bloodcloak. The Bloodcloak Ancestor easily found the room where Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate and Dongfang Yinxing were. The Bloodcloak Ancestor was like a Spider-Man as he leaned against the wall. He had heard everything clearly. However, to the great disappointment of the blood-clothed ancestor, he listened outside for half an hour, and there was nothing but the sound of the TV in the room. He didn't hear anything useful from Empyrean Pyryang and Dongfang Yinxing's laughter. He listened for another half an hour or so. There was still nothing but laughter and TV in the room. The blood-clothed ancestor could only go back first. However, thinking about it, these two were experts at the peak of heaven rank. There was no need for any discussion or strategy to deal with an early heaven rank expert like Lin Yi. They just had to go out at night and do it. The time now was just boring waiting. In a place like the secular world where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was sparse, they couldn't cultivate. What else could they do other than watch TV? Thinking of this, the blood-clothed ancestor didn't wait any longer and returned to his room. How is it, Bloodcloak? Did you find out anything? Seeing that the blood-clothed ancestor had returned, the Yellow Spring ancestor quickly asked. The blood-clothed ancestor shook his head and said, They have been watching TV in the room and didn't say anything else. Let's watch at night and act according to the situation. That's the only way. The Yellow Spring ancestor nodded. Yellow Spring ancestor, blood-clothed ancestor, Yinsen ancestor. What should I do next? Feng Xingyao asked. Next, you should take a rest first. You don't need to participate in tonight's matter. The blood-clothed ancestor thought for a while and said, It will be enough for the three of us to take action at night. Okay, then I will take my leave first. Feng Xingyao said and left with his two subordinates. As for the Yellow Spring ancestor, blood-clothed ancestor, and Yinsen ancestor, they quietly waited for the evening to come in the room. At 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate did not move. The blood-clothed ancestor observed several times that they were watching TV in the room until 1 o'clock in the morning. Finally, they moved. Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate walked out of the room and took the elevator out of the hotel to the parking lot. Then they got into their car and slowly drove away from the Shui Shang Business Hotel. Of course, with the strength of Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate, there was no need for them to take a car to find Lin Yi. The purpose of them taking a car was probably to deceive others. Otherwise, it would be strange for the two of them to stroll outside in the middle of the night. However, the Yellow Spring ancestor, blood-clothed ancestor, and Yinsen ancestor didn't drive a car. They didn't even take the elevator. Instead, they jumped out of the hotel window and over the wall on the side of the hotel, following Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate's car slowly. The car drove to the entrance of Lin Yi's villa and stopped. The Yellow Spring ancestor and the other two also hid themselves not far away. Ding dong! Dongfang Yinxing rang the doorbell of Lin Yi's villa. He didn't force his way in because he was afraid of alerting the people around. After all, they were people from the ancient times. It would be unjustifiable for them to interfere in the affairs of the secular world. The Dongfang family barely had a reason to arrest the murderer of the Dongfang family, but the everyday sect didn't have a suitable reason. Hence, they kept a low profile, although the newly appointed ancestor of the everyday sect, Zhongpingyang, didn't play by the rules and relied on the strength of the everyday sect to disregard the rules of the ancient times. That was Zhongpingyang. Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate kept a low profile as much as possible. Someone was ringing the doorbell at 1:00 in the morning. Lin Yi returned to reality from his cultivation state. He got up and walked out of the room, arriving at the entrance of the villa. Chapter 3162. Although Lin Yi had seen the three top masters from Yellow Spring sect before, he was still shocked, because Lin Yi clearly felt that these two didn't have good intentions. They were different from the people from Yellow Spring sect. Whether it was their expressions or their cold attitude, it showed that they were enemies. What's the matter, visiting so late at night? Lin Yi didn't walk over to guard the door. The Jade had already sent out a weak warning signal. If he walked over, the Jade would probably send out a strong warning, right? So Lin Yi just stood at the door, looking at Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Tinzuin from afar. Lin Yi had already thought about it. If anything happened, he would run to the backyard and get on the purple lightning beast. Yushu's backer was 5-element sect. These two wouldn't dare touch her no matter how strong they were. As for Su Shirhan, Lin Yi could only pray that these two wouldn't go upstairs to look for her. Otherwise, Lin Yi would have to come back and waste his only net to save Su Shirhan. You're Lin Yi, right? Dongfang Yinxing wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He needed to be sure, otherwise he'd be screwed. Just like Dongfang Song and the others. They tried to make a move on the inheritor of the Dark Palace, only to be killed by the Great Elder. You are? Lin Yi asked. Dongfang Yinxing. Dongfang Yinxing said proudly, You killed so many people from my Dongfang family. Today, I will make you pay with your blood. Dongfang Yinxing? Lin Yi frowned and looked at Pure Yin Tinzuin. What about you? You're not from Dongfang family too, right? Pure Yin Tinzuin. I'm here on the orders of Mad Dragon Ancestor to take your life. Pure Yin Tianzuin didn't explain too much and simply stated the purpose of this trip. Both of them were here to kill him. Lin Yi took a deep breath, turned around, and wanted to run. He had no choice but to run. 2-peak late phase heaven-class masters. Lin Yi wasn't their match at all. Lin Yi couldn't even deal with one, let alone two. Open the door and die. I'll let you die a quick death. Dongfang Yinxing said. Don't even think about escaping. You won't be able to escape from 2-peak late heaven rank experts. What to do? Lin Yi pondered for a moment and wanted to turn around and escape. After all, if he didn't run now, it would be too late. Just at this moment of mutual hostility. Not far away, Ancestor Blood Cloak and Ancestor Yellow Spring exchanged glances and said at the same time, Let's go! Leave no one alive. As they spoke, the two flew behind Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerate. As for old Ancestor Eeriewoods, he did not move. He was waiting for an opportunity to strike. Just as Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerable were about to kill Lin Yi, they suddenly felt a sense of danger coming from behind. Their hearts trembled and they quickly turned around, only to see 2 black-robed men rushing towards them. Damn it. Who are these people? Both of them were scared out of their wits because Ancestor Blood Cloak and Ancestor Yellow Spring were displaying their peak late phase heaven rank strength. The two of them had to be careful. This is Lin Yi. He has helpers. Pure Yin Heavenly Venerable and Dongfang Yinxing were shocked. Although they were puzzled, they had no choice but to take out their heaven-grade divine weapons at the same time. Otherwise, the two of them would die without a doubt in the face of the two shiny black iron swords. In the blink of an eye, the four divine weapons intertwined with each other. 2 against 2. It was hard to tell who would come out on top. Although the Blood Cloak Ancestor and the Yellow Spring Ancestor were at the peak of the late stage of the Heaven rank and were stronger than the Pure Een, Heavenly Venerable, and Dongfang Yinxing, it was impossible for them to instantly kill each other. After all, at this level, they had a lot of fighting experience. It was unrealistic to say who could directly kill the other. However, if they fought for a period of time, Ancestor Blood Cloak and Ancestor Yellow Spring were both experts with half a foot in the Heaven rank. Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Een Heavenly Venerate were both experts with half a foot in the Great Perfection realm. Although the two of them hadn't reached that level yet, they had already touched the threshold after years of cultivation. All they lacked was an opportunity, so their combat experience wasn't the slightest bit lacking. However, what made them alarmed was that the moves of the two people in front of them were very strange. Every move was a killer move, and every move was fatal. Not a single move only wanted to injure and not kill. This gave the two of them a headache. They had to carefully deal with every move. Otherwise, there would be a bloody hole in their bodies. This also resulted in the two of them only being able to defend and not attack. And at this time, just as Ancestor Blood Cloak was about to attack Dongfang Yinxing, Dongfang Yinxing suddenly felt danger coming from behind. However, he couldn't look back because Ancestor Blood Cloak's black iron sword was already stabbing towards him. If he didn't deal with it properly, he would be stabbed to death. This put him in a dilemma. He was incomparably hesitant, but there was no other way. He could only brace himself and defend first, praying that the person behind him was just Lin Yi. However, the reality was very cruel. Dongfang Yinxing suddenly felt that the person behind him was at the peak of the Heaven rank, but it was already too late. An arrow pierced through his heart. Dongfang Yinxing died with his eyes wide open. Pure Een Heavenly Venerable was shocked, but he didn't dare to be distracted. In the next moment, it was his turn to suffer a tragedy. Another arrow pierced through his heart. Pure Een Heavenly Venerable also died. However, before he died, he suddenly remembered the identity of the three people in front of him. You're from the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect. Moreover, your ancestors. Why do you want to kill me? Pure Een Heavenly Venerable couldn't understand why the three ancestors of the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect wanted to kill them. This was a completely unrelated matter. Why did they help Lin Yi? In fact, the fight between these people was over in the blink of an eye. Because there was a distance between each villa in the villa area, it didn't alarm anyone else. Lin Yi was originally prepared to escape, but he couldn't help but stare in shock when he saw the three from the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect suddenly jump out and kill Pure Een Heavenly Venerable and Dongfang Yinxing. What kind of show were these three putting on? Why did they help him? Thank you for helping me. May I ask if you're returning my favor? Lin Yi really couldn't understand why these three would help. The only thing he could think of was that the Yellow Spring Ancestor and the others said that if he helped Mingyao torture Zhao Qibing, they would owe him a favor. So, no matter how he thought about it, this was the only possibility that Lin Yi could think of. Chapter 3163. Oh, assassination targets? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. Yes, I'm really sorry that I didn't tell Mr. Lin before. Perhaps Mr. Lin was wondering why 3 patriarchs were dispatched at the same time when we came to make peace with you. Isn't this a little too much? Asked Ancestor Eerie Woods. Indeed, I was wondering before, but I was too embarrassed to ask. Lin Yi nodded. Could it be that your real target is these 2 people? That's right. Eerie Old Ancestor nodded. Only the 3 of us can easily kill these 2 peak late-stage Heaven rank experts. However, we were afraid of alerting them. so we didn't tell Mr. Lin about this. Moreover, the mission is confidential, so we didn't know that Mr. Lin has a grudge against these two. We were also afraid that Mr. Lin would leak the secret, so we concealed it. Mr. Lin, you won't be unhappy, right? Of course not. Lin, he shook his head in surprise and joy. He suddenly realized something. Before this, he was still wondering when he got so much face to have 3 elders from the blood-cloth underworld sect come to him to make peace. Wasn't this too awesome? Now, it seemed that they came with a mission. As for why they killed Pure Yin Heavenly Lord and Dongfang Yinxing, Lin he didn't bother to ask. It was very simple. Someone paid for murder, so they made a move. There was no reason at all. Just like before, they inexplicably came to kill Lin Yi for the same reason. Moreover, this matter didn't have much to do with Lin Yi. As long as the bloodcloth underworld sect didn't come to kill him, it was fine. As for who the employer was, there was no need for him to ask. Lin Yi used to be an assassin in the secular world, so it was impossible for him to casually tell others about his employer. Then the 3 of us will go first. You must keep the matter of us coming here a secret. Don't tell anyone. Bloodcloth old ancestor pondered for a moment and said, however, I'll have to trouble Mr. Lin to help deal with these 2 corpses. I can't say for sure, but I'll have to trouble Mr. Lin to take the blame for their deaths. Oh, Lin, he was slightly stunned, but he was overjoyed. Taking the blame for the 3 ancestors of Yellow Spring sect was not a bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing for Lin Yi. Even if the Dongfang family and Every Day After Bright sect knew that Dongfang Yinxing and Pure Yin Heavenly Venerable were killed by the blood-clothed underworld sect, it wouldn't do Lin Yi any good. They wouldn't lessen their hatred for Lin Yi because of this. On the contrary, if the 2 of them died in front of Lin Yi's house, they might even think that Lin Yi hired the blood-clothed underworld sect to kill them. Therefore, they probably wouldn't seek revenge from the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect. He would still look for Lin Yi. However, what if they thought that the 2 of them were killed by Lin Yi? That would be different. Killing 2 peak late-stage heaven powerhouses wasn't something an ordinary person could do, but Lin Yi did it. In this way, whether it was the Dongfang family or the Every Day After Bright sect, they had to reevaluate Lin Yi's ability. If they wanted to deal with Lin Yi, they had to send out more powerful experts. Who was the more powerful expert? It was definitely a peak late-stage heaven perfection expert. However, there was another problem. If Lin Yi could kill 2 peak late-stage heaven perfection experts, why couldn't he kill a peak late-stage heaven perfection expert? It wasn't impossible, it was very possible. Moreover, even a peak late-stage heaven perfection expert wouldn't dare to say that he could easily kill 2 peak late-stage heaven perfection experts, right? It was possible to kill one. But if 2 were to attack together, the peak late-stage heaven perfection expert might be the one to suffer. This was a 50-50 chance. Of course, if it was someone else, no one would believe that an early-stage heaven rank expert could kill 2 peak late-stage heaven rank experts. They might even mistake it as a mental patient talking nonsense. But when it came to Lin Yi, everyone thought that it was normal. Lin Yi had been fighting enemies stronger than him since his debut. Many of the Dongfang family's experts had died in Lin Yi's hands, and the Every Day After Bright sect's Zhang Naipeo, who is known as the number 1 under a certain level, was defeated by Lin Yi every single time. If Zhang Naipeo could kill Dongfang Bushu, who is a peak late-stage heaven perfection expert, then why couldn't Lin Yi kill 2 peak late-stage heaven perfection experts if he was stronger than Zhang Naipeo? So, other than being surprised, no one would doubt it. This was Lin Yi's current advantage. When Lin Yi thought about it, he was very happy to get this benefit for free. Although he couldn't guarantee that the Dongfang family and the Every Day After Bright sect wouldn't react and seek revenge. But in the short term, they wouldn't be able to find trouble with Lin Yi. 2 peak late-stage heaven perfection experts who didn't even know how they died, who would dare come to die? After thinking this through, Lin cupped his fist at the three. All right, I'll keep this a secret. No matter what, I thank the three elders for helping me kill my enemies. Since we're paid, we'll take our leave first. With that, Bloodreeb nodded and quickly left with the other two. The fighting in the yard alerted the people in the villa. The first to come out were Wu, Qintian, and Feng Sanhuang. They didn't see the fight, but they saw two corpses the moment they came out. What's going on? Who are these two people? Qintian and Feng Sanhuang were startled. The consecutive days of peace made them think that the Dongfang family had let go of this matter and wouldn't come looking for trouble. But tonight's matter didn't seem to be the case. These two people had Sky-class weapons in their hands. They were obviously practitioners and Sky-class practitioners at that. They were most likely related to the Dongfang family. One is Dongfang Yinxing, and the other is Pure Yin Sky Master. Lin Yi said, both of them are peak late stage, heaven perfection. Qintian, Feng Bro, take care of these two corpses. Don't alert the neighbors. Dongfang Yinxing, Pure Yin Sky Master? Qintian didn't think much of it, but Feng Sanhuang was shocked. He naturally knew who these two were. They were famous masters for a long time, but they were dead? Killed by Lin Yi just like that. Chapter 3164. Feng Sanhuang came back to his senses. Mr. Lin, you're really amazing. You can even kill 2 heaven rank peak late phase experts? At this time, Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi also came downstairs. When they saw the 2 corpses in front of the villa, they were shocked. When they heard that both of them were peak late stage heaven class and were killed by Lin Yi, they were shocked as well. I used some secret techniques, but I paid a price for it. Lin Yi explained vaguely. He'd already promised Bloodcloak Underworld to keep it a secret, so he couldn't even tell the people close to him. He could only brush them off like this. Moreover, this was what Lin Yi wanted. If this matter was spread out, it would be of great benefit to Lin Yi's reputation. Since Lin Yi said so, Qintian and Sanhuang didn't ask anymore and quickly went to take care of the body. Shirhan, on the other hand, walked over with fear. Lin Yi, this person is Dongfang Yinxing of the Dongfang clan. It looks like the Dongfang clan is going all out this time. Lin Yi said, I heard that there is still a man named Dongfang Jinxing and Dongfang Badeo left. I don't know when they will come. When they come, I'll kill them all, and then you can leave this place with peace of mind. Lin Yi's words were actually meant to spread the news through the mouths of his own people. Moreover, he also had another purpose. Su Shirhan was shocked. Lin Yi was really ruthless. He wanted to wipe out their whole family. Then, what about the other person? Cheng Yi asked curiously. That person is from the Everyday and Everyday Church. He's called Pure Yin Heavenly Venerable. In any case, the Everyday and Everyday Church and I are sworn enemies. I heard that they have a peak heaven rank expert at the great perfection of the heaven rank. I don't know if my secret technique can get rid of him. I can give it a try. It shouldn't be a problem, Lin Yi said. Heavens, so powerful. Cheng Yi stuck out her tongue. Xiaohan, since there's nothing else, I'll go upstairs to rest. I'm so sleepy. You go first. I'll wait for Brother Feng here. Su Shirhan had something to tell Feng Sanhuang. Such a big thing happened today. She had to tell her father, Feng Tianlin. All right, I'll go to bed first. I'm so sleeping. Cheng Yi turned around and walked towards the villa in a daze. Holy *T, I seem to have missed something fun. Yushu ran out of the villa in her pajamas, her big breasts in her hands. She looked at the body Sanhuang, and Qintian moved into the car with sleepy eyes. Shield bro, who are these 2 idiots? Lin Yi looked at Yushu. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Shu, can't you drink less papaya milk? Are your breasts tired? Now you're holding it with your hands? Ugh, I've been drinking it, since I was a kid. Can't change it. Yushu said as she let go. Shield bro, maybe you could help me with liposuction. When you cultivate in the future, you can make your skin contract. If it's firmer, you won't need to hold it with your hands. Lin Yi used qi into sound. This was something he learned in the Ice Palace. He wasn't very familiar with it when he was a mystic, but now that he was a sky class, naturally he could use it freely. Yushu becoming an inheritor was still a secret. Lin Yi didn't want anyone else to know about it. Besides, this was a private conversation. Lin Yi and Shu were so close that they didn't need to hide anything. But Su Shihan, Feng Sanhuang, and Qintian were there too, so Lin Yi couldn't say it out loud. Oh, Yushu nodded happily. Finally, I don't need to hold it up anymore. Lin Yi told Yushu about what happened last night and led her into the house. Shihan, on the other hand, went to call Feng Tianlin. The father and daughter didn't contact each other often, and every time they called, they had a lot to talk about. But tonight, other than Shihan and Feng Tianlin who didn't rest, it was destined to be a sleepless night for many people. Feng Tianhu, the first person to know about Dongfang jinxing and Pure Yin's death, was shocked as if he was struck by lightning. He held the phone in his hand, unable to believe his ears. Two peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouses died just like that? Since when did Lin Yi become so powerful? Now he could kill top-level practitioners? Feng Tianhu was shocked, but he was also afraid. He regretted killing Su Shihan when he had nothing better to do. Now he made such a strong enemy out of nowhere. If Lin Yi wanted to come to House Feng and take his life, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. Old Feng wouldn't even say a word for him, because even Old Feng wasn't his opponent. All of a sudden, Feng Tianhu was extremely frustrated. He felt that his biggest failure was working with Dongfang Xiaocui to deal with Shihan. It was a stupid move. No, he couldn't just sit here and wait for death. He needed to quickly find Dongfang Xiaocui to discuss a plan. Coincidentally, Feng Tianlin went to pick up Shihan's call. Dongfang Xiaocui had the chance to come out. Receiving Feng Tianhu's message, Dongfang Xiaocui quickly came to the prearranged location. Seeing Feng Tianlin frowning, she couldn't help but be confused. Tianhu? What are you doing? It's already so late. What's the matter? Don't let your second brother misunderstand. Sister-in-law, let's not talk about this. Something happened. Something big happened. Feng Tianhu waved his hand and ignored Dongfang Xiaocui's words. He hurriedly said, Dongfang Yinxing is dead. What? My second brother is dead. Dongfang Xiaocui's eyes widened and looked at Feng Tianhu in disbelief. Feng Tianhu, are you joking? Your joke isn't funny at all. My second brother is a sky-class late-phase peak master. He's half a step into the absolute peak. You're saying he's dead? Sister-in-law, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Feng Tianhu frowned. The everyday sex Pure Yin Tianzuan died with him. He's also a sky-class late-phase peak master. What? How did they die? What did they go to do? Dongfang Xiaocui realized that Feng Tianhu might be telling the truth and asked anxiously, You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.